Damn it.
And I also think one of the decks was under the wrong leader, but I can't really remember which one that was. But that's the simple change to be made.
Well, let's do it now. I'm gonna stop the stream again, and actually, we should just have somebody check the stream, and then we can stop. And
You can stay on stream. It's not the worst thing to show while we wait for people to show up.
actually, that's not a bad idea. People can just, I don't know if people are gonna watch, but it will go to YouTube anyway. So we have people.
Okay, so maybe we start the YouTube part later.
Yeah. I will just edit it out after. Don't worry. When I prepare it for YouTube, I'm gonna do some cutting and edit it, and maybe some things in between that we can delete.
Wonderful. Then I trust you have some rain list under that will do the job.
I'm just gonna grab it. I'm just gonna make something new because I want tier list. So it's a solver brain list, I guess.
It might be faster if you do it like that.
Yeah. Here we
You're
go.
gonna put your fanatics list, or
Are we gonna do it with fanatics or without fanatics?
I'd say without because I already put one with,
Okay.
but
So
without rain. So it's
this.
up to you.
I don't think you play Outkill on this. You play this. Play two Flamenicas, right? Not three. And two
I
blow
have no
rollers.
idea.
Yeah, I really don't know a special rain list. Anyway, we can see. Obviously, you play Hammond. You play this Tempest. I don't know what else you play.
Smart.
I don't know.
Like, do you play the Primal Savagery?
I really don't know because. Okay, we can put it in. I, I guess you play a lot of heal, right? You play the heals. These
Yeah,
three
and
of
I
them.
guess you can kill the sirens. It doesn't cost too much.
Yeah, you play the sirens definitely.
I mean, you kill the sirens with the Primal Savagery.
Ah, yes,
You
yes, yes.
you probably also play the classical rain, right? To thin the deck, not to damage your flamingas.
Again, your voices become blurry.
Oh, sorry, I put away my mic. Is it better now?
It's
Yeah, a
okay.
lot.
It's
A
okay.
lot. Okay. So if I remember this deck precisely correctly, because I haven't played it anytime myself, I think you also have rain involved.
Oh, do you
The
you
torrential
use
rain.
you thin it out, I guess. I think yeah, it's actually needed because the card is pretty bad if you play it for the second time. I think you play two or one rain. I'm not sure. I think they play two because there's two Flamenicas. It's really bad, the bricks. But I think this needs a bit of a buff. I really don't know why it's such a huge weaken. Should be weakened by two at maximum.
Yeah, I agree. I guess some bone talismans are in order, and
Yeah. I think you play Houndsnout with the other guy. Wait. First, let me get all the golds. You're definitely playing Heim here, right? Because cursed.
do you play the guys the marauders that buff for every damage unit?
I think you do. I think you do.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, you play definitely Skial because tutor. You play the spy. You play. What else? Um, where's the bone talismans? You play restore. You play Grandmast. Restore Sigrifa. Let me just draw. One more. Oh, that's too many. What else would you play? Uh,
You can always
Great
go
Bondu. Great
inside.
Bondu.
yes. That's the one.
Yeah, that
What
would make a
else?
lot of sense. But Rogue is the card that you can put anywhere. Also.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna drop the one Torrential Rain uh, and one Marauder, or I don't know.
Maybe a roller.
Yeah, okay. I think this is enough.
This is a decent enough rank.
Yeah, yeah.
Can,
But the QQ
well,
players play this a lot, right?
yeah, but I mean, it's not like there's one big list that everybody plays. Everybody plays something different.
Exactly. Okay. Okay, let's see if somebody's there to check. Hi.
How many QQ players do we have?
The QQ group is 1,500 people.
How much of them actually play though?
That's a good question. It varies a lot. Like, for instance, at Christmas they're very numerous because everybody has vacation in China.
Let's see. I've seen a
I
lot
mean,
of them on, the ladder, the ranking ladder, the leaderboards. A lot of them are at the top sometimes. So I guess they do play.
yeah, there is this top 3 or top 4 player at the moment who is.
Mhm.
They usually are pretty high, but
Mhm.
the European are also from Chinese players
Mhm.
aware of them. I don't see Chinese names a lot. However, we care a lot about what QQ says about some change or some archetype.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess it can be unpleasant sometimes, especially if you don't have the whole story.
I don't mind their cards. It's better actually. They should just cross check because this the one they came out with, the silver Ule, it's actually a very good card. I mean, I wouldn't say good, but it's really fun to play. Definitely very fun to play that card.
Yeah, fun, I agree, but it's like one of those cards. I thought the same of the Mage Infiltrator, where you knew it's not going to be competitive from the
Yeah,
start. Like,
yeah.
and at this point, why add this? But yeah, it does no harm. It's pretty interesting.
Mhm.
Okay,
I mean, another problem is you have to actually build a deck around it so that it always has something big to battle. That's also one more problem.
I guess it's a decent deploy just to add value to Svalbard.
Mhm. That's not bad. It's not that good with Solver because it's three power. Or is it two power or three power? It's three power. Yeah, it's three power.
Ah, so it doesn't die.
No, I think it should have been two personally.
Yeah, because if it was just bonus points on Svalbard, he would be
It
very
would be,
okay.
yeah, very okay. It is 4 points with Brand, but the bigger it is, the worse it is. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and in some ways, like with Bran, it costs you a lot. Like this could have been, I don't know,
All geared, right?
yeah, all geared or even worse, Wolf's Bane.
Yeah. I understand. What else would they change? I'm trying to understand how they can buff the vampires. They're so bad, the NG Nilfgaard vampires.
I think that's reworked here.
Yeah,
Let's think of something else. Let's think of some archetype, something they would all do.
yeah. Actually, yeah, I just want them to at least be decent and mid-range so that you can get a good black blood. Especially this one. This one, I think, just make it human and finish. I don't want it to be vampire. I understand why it should be vampire because but
But it
technically, I don't.
isn't. It
Actually, it isn't.
isn't in the.
It isn't. It's just people who work at the manor and they don't know that they're serving vampires. They're actually human, I think. I don't know. I see they're giving them glass of blood or something. Yes, the art is really good. So I see nobody's even on the chat. Damn it.
I've just heard that voice quality on Twitch exists. Let's say exists because I can hear you during our conversation very, very well. However, on Twitch, it sounds like you've been talking with this water mode.
Who, me?
Yes,
Oh no, let me
your
see.
voice quality drops like radically.
Interesting. Because I'm using my own mic. Let me see what I can do. Hang on. Hello, 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 hello. Yes, should be okay. Filters. Edit filter.
I'll summon Kashtag. He will come.
Yes. Anybody can. Oh. Noise suppression. Add a noise suppression. Oh, good quality. I made CPU gaps. See. Mhm. Filters for Twitch. I actually need to switch to the other one. This is not good. The thing is, I have everything, created here, so it's easy to jump in. If I have to do that, I have to go all over it again and try to learn it.
Sounds very complicated. Too much for me.
This one's actually pretty useless. It's not that good. I should just have gone with something else that at the time, at the beginning, I just thought this was a good idea. We can process this. Uh, mm, Still see nobody on the chat, so there's that.
Give me 2 minutes. I need to reset my router. I
Yeah,
feel
go ahead.
like I'm constantly interrupting with it.
Okay. Mhm. 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 What else? Radio capture device. What is this? Hmm. Game. Yeah, device is game. Final control of this audio bubbles. Okay, let's see. Noise gate. Okay.
Hello guys, can someone check the chat, the sound quality, please?
You don't see anything. That
I see 3 viewers.
could be bots. And
Hello,
normally,
hello.
yes, go ahead.
Oh, nice to be heard.
Huh? Good,
I
good,
love
good.
hearing you.
Okay.
Okay, and we are back with
Oh,
grading stuff.
we haven't even started. I mean, we're
Yeah,
already
but
live, but yes.
it's very nice from my perspective, especially. It's very nice to be back with those decks because last time I wasn't really all that much prepared. There were some, especially the newer decks, that I haven't really tried at all. Now I have at least some grasp of experience with almost all of them, and it will be much easier for me to debate Philip, who is creator of most of them.
And now we can also, shuffle them around. Maybe this is not the final interpretation. Maybe there should be some different places.
Yeah, some stuff is definitely still open to debate, especially within the tiers. I think we haven't decided anything yet.
By the way, are you watching it on Twitch or are you watching it through Discord?
Now through Discord.
Yes, yes, yes.
At the moment, there's no delay.
Yes, you should always watch through Discord, not through.
Yeah, I try to check the chat at the moment, see if there is anybody who can confirm that our voice is loud and clear.
Yeah, but there's nobody I see.
I mean, the three viewers could be ourselves or
Yeah, it
bots,
is
I
me.
guess.
I am online also to check the chat, but I don't see it. But I see two people. I guess it's you and me, I guess.
I must be like, I see three, but yeah, must be something similar. I guess if it was someone from Discord, they would have said hello.
Alrighty, yes. Ooh. See, I guess Fred is busy. Otherwise, he normally jumps. Okay, can one of you keep speaking, and then after exactly 10 seconds, the other person speak? I'm going to go to another room to check your voice quality. Guys?
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
I'll
you
start
can keep
for a
speaking,
minute.
surely.
Yeah, just talk for maybe 30 seconds and then switch to the other person and talk for 30 seconds so that I know, and then I will come and one of you check my quality. Okay?
Okay, so who starts when?
Yeah, you can
Go
start.
ahead.
Okay, I can start. So as I said before, I'm really satisfied with seeing your presentation, Philip. I really like the graphical presentation of a theories. What do we mean by that something is on the left or something is on the right? I have also had some ideas on some arguments that I haven't really used yesterday, in Monday, because I haven't really played those decks. And I can't wait for us to see the real discussion and real grading. And yeah, and especially my two beloved fractions of Skellige and Scoia'tael. I actually am running out of ideas. What else can I say that won't be really stupid? So I think I can give my microphone back to you.
This was pretty impressive for a sound test. I'll try to do just as well. Yeah, I played a bit on my alt this time, and it was quite interesting to see that everything you see here is fresh because the patch
Guys
is
sound
fresh.
perfect.
Okay.
Oh, I see there's somebody here. I forget Jupiter. Who was Jupiter? I think that's Rich Massive, isn't it?
No, that's Pulf,
Poof.
Bluntforce Trauma. Hello, and thank you
No, no,
for.
no. You said yes, sir. I think that is Rich Massive.
Ah, okay.
How about my
But
voice? Sorry, excuse me.
Very well. I haven't yet tried you on Twitch, so I will jump there. But on Discord, you are perfectly understandable.
I think Rich is gonna do that for us. Rich, can you tell me if I sound okay? Because I know Philip and Tyke are fine. What about the voice quality for me? Okay, I sound great too. So I think it's all okay. So we can just continue from where we left off. Oh, well, there, Fred is there too. Hey, welcome aboard, everybody.
Welcome, welcome.
Indeed. So let's kick it off again. We're back to doing the tier lists. And the previous day we covered up Northern Realms, Nilfgaard, and monsters. And once again, joining me to finish up with the Skellige and Squirtle are once again our great developer Philippopotamus and Tyke Myson. Welcome, guys, and come and introduce yourself once again.
Thank you very much. Well, I'll start. People probably know me as one of the Discord admins. I do a lot of development for the game, but I also love to play, and I like to think I'm a competitive player, so I love doing tier lists and theory crafting, of course. Go ahead, Tyke.
My name is Tyke Myson, but you can also recognize me from our server from one of my alts, from my Smurfs. I'm an old Gwent fanatic who loves to enjoy just beta times. I enjoy this game as much as I did back in time, and I'm really pleased to be able to discuss stuffs like tier list with other great players.
Thank you for the introductions, and as you all can see that we've already completed almost half of the tier list, and we're gonna shuffle the decks a bit after we're done with all the other factions. And for now, we're gonna go and look at some of the decks from the Skellige faction. And guys, so the first up in the list, what would you suggest about veterans? Because what do you think?
We have to start with veterans because we have just witnessed I would say, fiery discussion on our server about veterans. Are they weak or are they strong? Are they rotten or are they not? And we definitely need to start with those. And I see we've got a list that was created by Philippopotamus for Philip, I would say, for the purpose of our tournament.
Yes, so if you take a quick look at this list, you might recognize the influence of the Aretusa video about veterans. So I basically copied it and swapped a few cards DIY cards that are just super effective, like Detlef, Hammond, and Knickers. So a quick thing to say about veterans is that everybody has seen how strong they can be on the ladder, especially a list like that can do, I don't know, more than 200 points in round one, which is completely bonkers for a non-engine deck. But at the same time, especially this list, but kind of old veteran lists, they lack any real answer to greedy stuff or to hard removal and stuff like that. So we saw a clear difference of performance between the ladder where they do really well and the tournament where bans exist and you can just end up with a matchup that has some tools, some combo that will lose you the game, whatever you do, and they do a lot worse. So hard to rank. What do you think, Tyke?
I would surely rank them in high tier 2. And
Yes,
I can explain it, but I can explain it, of course. But if you have anything to say in contrary to it, just start.
No. I used to think it was a tier 1. I saw how it has bad matchups. I definitely think Consume is winnable. You just have to play Birna Brown much earlier than I did in the tournament. But it's the kind of matchups you're not going to win anyway in general. And so it doesn't deserve the tier 1 at all, in my opinion.
That's interesting because I don't really agree here. I really think that in this particular list, without any Coral or Mandrake, that's the list that you have been running on the tournament, you have no chances of winning against Consume if Consume players know his stuff. even with Birna, even with killing little neckers with Tirsach hunters in the early stages, I think Consume has too many points to really be threatened by veterans. But despite this, I still think veterans is probably the most viable deck for a ladder for regular climbing, and I would put them in tier two, in high tier two, on just below the tier one because of those bad matchups they turn against engine decks.
Yeah,
They are
essentially,
really
I agree.
difficult to win with. Yeah, they are really difficult to beat Consume, to beat Spice, to beat some Swarm decks, I would say, because we also don't have Lacerate or any other answer to small units than pretty much this Weather Birna. So it's high tier one and nothing above it.
High tier two, but yeah, yeah, I completely agree. I think that sums it up pretty much.
I would
It
just
is solid.
I would have to agree with the high tier too, because really one of the other things about this deck is it's a really friendly deck, you know. It's very easy to get in. You have to build around your veterans, and you try to make your bronzes almost like silvers. But the problem is in today's timeline, it is a bit power crept because there are other bronzes from other factions that are able to make up the points, but it is a very classic deck and it's very, you know, it doesn't have problems with bricks or and if and the goals are pretty much, you know, not fixed. You can put in a lot of different goals except for maybe, you know, Hammond, which kind of makes sense in this kind of deck. But yeah, I think high tier two is pretty much where this belongs. Uh, what do you think,
Yeah,
Phil?
Yeah, yeah, I think I was in total agreement with this. I wouldn't say it got power crept. It got quite a huge boost in power, and in terms of raw points, there's very little that comes close to it in terms of point slam decks. But I think it still has the same weakness from beta, which is greed.
yeah,
And
and even if we decide to play some anti-greed goals for our unfixed slot, like Coral that we mentioned, like Igni, like I also seen people, especially in beta, who played Vesemir with Mandrake, it still suffers in a lot of greedy matchups, especially against Consume. But despite that
Yeah,
fact, I would probably argue that it's the strongest high tier 2 deck that we can encounter. It's
yes.
just below
Also,
tier 1.
yeah,
the version that I showed has the issue with the iced is you don't thin well. So when you talk about all those goals, often you just don't draw them, and it's super frustrating. So this list was built especially for ladder, where you thin as much as you can, even including knickers and stuff like that. So it gets hyper consistent. But I wouldn't say that a list more teched against, for instance, consume would fare necessarily better because you're still at the mercy of your draws, and you might draw this coral at the wrong time.
You're right, and there is also one point that I wanted to add, but I forget before. This list that veterans usually have been weak from red coin. They didn't really had all that steam to push your opponent to force to threaten him winning or losing on even. But your list with Roach, with Knickers, with Detlef especially, has a lot of first of all tools to defend the blue coin, and secondly, it can also push player from the red coin perspective to losing on even. This list is really scary, and yeah, this is just another of my arguments to put it on the top of high tier 2.
Okay, I guess we're both in agreement here. I think you're the other one that played it a lot on the ladder with a lot of success. So maybe we would need someone on the other side of the of the gaming board to give us his impressions. But from the player side, it looks like a hard tier two. No argument.
I also think this belongs here. And and just, you know, Fred here is a little curious why we're running Trish. And as Philip explained, the reason is to improve the chances to always find recon, and you know, you play more bronzes, and in a way you're thinning your deck that way. So that was the reason. And yes, Necro Consume AQ is really a bad matchup, but I guess we all know that. And what else I want to point out about this deck is the ability to keep on replaying the veterans themselves, because there are a couple of ways to do that, if I'm not mistaken. There is a Sigdrifa. I'm not sure if this one runs decoy, but you can
Does.
always,
It does.
yeah, if you have decoy, you can always just decoy the Sigdrifa and get one more veteran. Essentially, you're just trying to improve those bronzes, bring them closer and closer to silvers, and really, that is the goal of the deck, I see. And personally, I have a few different versions. I've been known to run Olaf in that spot, but I guess Hammond is just better. But I just feel, if you want to bleed, it's better to run Olaf in place of Burna. But I understand why Burna is such a great choice, because it's one of those. That's not that it's one of those. It just becomes a gold that deploys a weather, and it's so much high value on the body itself. You can get it to around 12 points if I'm not mistaken. So that is very good points on a body with the weather in addition. And the Skellige Storm is not just any ordinary weather. It's a weather that is gonna affect 3 units on the row. So yes, I understand why this is such a well well established deck that everyone can turn to. Um, let's see what else our viewers have to say. I play control-ish decks, and it does feel really strong. It also feels like it just loses to Moonwraith and similar engines. Yeah, that's always gonna be the problem with this deck, because you don't have that high target. You have to play around two of the hunters to be able to kill something, because it's just 5 damage. Philip and Tyke, what do you think? Do you think if the damage on the hunters was a little bit more, it would have been a much better deck?
I mean, yeah,
It
of
would.
course, but it's still useful.
I would say it would be very useful in one particular matchup against Nilfgaard's Spice Enforcers.
Definitely.
Very
Yes,
true.
6 damage, yes. I see here that Rich is always in favor of Olaf. Anyway, coming back to the tiers, let's look at the next deck that we have, which is none other than Discard. And boy, there are a few versions of Discard. Let's have a look at what is the best or the most common version of Discard. Can we have a look at that? And can you lead off with the Discard? I believe this is you.
I pleasantly can. I had a lot of success with Discard myself. I feel like there is, of course, there are greedier versions with Crowmover, but I think the real, like the orthodox discard has only one room for change. It can either be Morgvark or Svanrige.
You have
The other goals are pretty fixed. Some people also run Ceres instead of Wolfsbane, and of course Priestess of Freya instead of one set of golds, probably Diamond Pirates, but I think Ceres version is much weaker than this one.
And Philip, this is the
And
version you've chosen, right? With the
no,
Terror
this
Crew.
is I see this list has Priestess of Freya. I think it's a mistake here. It should have been some other bronze.
Philip, what do you think?
Of course,
Uh,
Riders, 6-point Riders.
Uh, yeah, I don't know where this one was taken, but essentially, yeah, there are a lot of variations around this list. For instance, if you play Ceres, there's actually some anti-synergy with the 6-point raiders. No, how are they called? The guys that buff themselves when they strengthen, when you
Okay.
discard.
There you
Yeah,
go.
Rider. We can just swap those 3 priestesses for raiders because it's definitely a mistake from our part.
Yeah,
I
let's
think the
go.
Raiders are like the equivalent of Netgurs, just a little less on steroids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, a bit. Like when you only play 3 of them, it's quite similar. But I wanted to say that if you want to build a good discard deck, either you play Ceres or you play the Raiders.
Wait, where are the
Above,
Raiders?
above,
6 points.
above
6 points card.
6.
I think it's with A. Or is it not?
Ah, there you
Yeah,
go.
there are. It's
Warlord.
Warlord.
Yeah, it's Warlord. It's
My bad.
Warlord.
So a few other things. I'm not sure if this version with Wolfsbane is that good without Johnny.
No, no, this is excellent because
Oh, really?
I think this is Guje Baidu who I think pioneered this style, and then I think Taik copied it. And
You're completely right.
Yeah, okay. Well, I remember it because it demolished. No, I lost by 1 point in a discard mirror against it. So it was a pretty interesting match. And the strength of this version is that usually when you play this card, you have quite a low tempo with Bran. This is not the case. Here you have a very uninteractive deck that is really hard to counter. You have Olgierd that goes directly into the graveyard, so you can't lock it. You've got Wolfsbane, which you can do very little against, and basically you just pile on points and try to get card advantage with your carryover and Wolfsbane, and end up with super strong finishes. So that's the gist of the deck.
Philip, I think there is some static again, like last time. Fred, just and also Catch Tech feel that there is some static on your end. Could you try, um, I don't know, restarting your mic or just
I will try.
is it
I will
only
try.
when Philip speaks, guys, or is it just constantly happening?
In the meantime, I can also say Philip was completely right about me net decking this list. And the original author of Gugabaidu also ran the greedier version with Decoy surely instead of Restore. Restore just doesn't belong here. I personally prefer Gremist as more versatile version. But still,
Again, there's
the core.
some problem with your voice too. I don't know if now it's my end or can you speak again?
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Is it better?
It's filters.
Is it better now? Can you hear me?
Your quality is a bit worse according to. What I'm gonna do is remove the capture for the application capture, audio capture, and just reinstate it. I think that should work. Can you speak again? Guys, can you hear him or can't you just not hear? Edge, can you even hear him or you can't hear him at all? Okay, can't hear, good. So I'm gonna add the source again and fix this. Window, Discord. Okay, can you speak now, Type?
Of course, I hope you can hear me well now. In Discord perspective, everything seems fine from either of us.
Now I'm gonna ask them to. How about now, guys? Is he better? Well, Fred, what do you think about Tyke?
Panda, can
Yeah,
you hear me?
yeah. So I think it's okay. Can you guys just give us a thumbs up, just to confirm again? Would be great. Okay, I think it's okay. I'm not sure what was the problem, but I just redid the audio channel from the Discord. It could be really the software itself is not that good because this is like a beta application to use the application sound. But that out of the way, let's get back to Discord. So you were saying what we were talking about the choices of the cards here, right?
Because of the choices, I think the list we are presenting is not the best one that either Gugabaidu runs or neither myself, because Restore just doesn't belong here. It should be replaced by Morkvark, surely.
Definitely, you just want to hit those brand targets, don't you? Um,
Yes, and also Restore wouldn't have a decent target anyway here because it
personally,
just wouldn't.
yeah, but personally, my argument here is since there's no Ceres, I guess there's no need for the Morgvog. The old unit is gonna do the job of the carryover so that your opponent can't drive past and do. I guess this is the reason it was dropped to the Morgvog, but I understand why you should run Morgvog. If you're
You
running Ceres, you definitely run Morgvog.
Well, with the stuff with Morkvark and potential of abandoning him is of course arguable. I would still believe he is better because he abuses carryover more. It eases a lot to defend the card because we most likely were gonna lose round one and then defend round two to not lose to defend the being card up in round three. However, with this list, my point was just that Restore doesn't belong here. I would personally go for Morkvark. Gugabaidu went for Decoy, and I am certain of it because I personally tested out and it didn't really work out to me.
I can understand. I have also some different versions where I'm personally running Crow Mother. I'm running the new Irish. She is really good if she survives because, especially with Sucrose, because you can play whatever you want from your hand, from your deck, and then just clear out whatever you have in your hand. Like if you want to drop there's some other choicey cards that you want to drop from your hand, especially if you want to remove what's the name of the card? If you want to remove the Pillagers, the Drummond
Mhm.
Pillagers, or if you want to remove Uncrate Raider in your hand, Iris is a really good option now. A lot of people have not discovered using it. I should really suggest you to try it. It's invincibly better than Ermion. It is maybe way better than Ermion, but of course the point is the Irish unit needs to survive to be better. In fact, if you would mind, you could test with Iris, and you also change Swan Ridge to Iris Companions. It is insanely better than running Ermion on Swan Ridge. But of course, if you kill the Iris, if your opponent kills the Iris, then it's a lot more riskier. But yes, that's something that a lot of people have yet to experiment, but I found it to be much better choice. Other than that, I would like to also add that what do you think of Sucrose as a card? It's a very interesting card that lets you do a lot of discards, and in certain cases you can discard more than two Terror Crew. What do you call them? Terror Crew Plunderers. And that's a lot of value on your warlords. Have you ever tried that type?
Of course, it's my favorite combo into Sakras into Terror Crew or Terror Crew Plunderers, and then Zigdrifa into Sucrus. That's the point of potential decoy here. That I'm not a much fan of it, but I'm also afraid that we are discussing two different variations of the same deck.
Exactly.
The one that is being displayed is I'm more familiar with it. I know you are better known from the greedier version with Crow Mother, with multiplying the terror crews, and I think it's different. It's impossible either to rate those two separate decks in the same time.
Can you just disconnect from the Discord call and come back in? They say that the disturbance is back.
Okay. How about now?
Guys?
How about now? I need to
All
put
good.
it to my main screen.
It's all good. What about Philip? Where's Philip? Philip, I think the
Yeah,
problem.
I'm here. I was reading Fred's comments, and I think it's a good point. You're sometimes happy to deny Agly's value by not running Decoy. Yeah, I think we could speak all day long about the variations, the possible variations on this list. Personally, I like very much the Sucrus combo too, but I tend to drop it more and more in my lists because at the end of the day, it's a lot of work for only one additional discard, unless you go full grid route like GRV, like Redrick. But yeah, it's a lot of work for only one more discard than usual. At this stage, maybe I'll run one more Priestess.
How about Philip? Is he okay? Catch stick?
A bit quiet. I can increase my volume then. Here you go. I should be louder.
No, it's good now.
Okay,
All right.
so how do we rate it?
Sorry, come again.
How do we rate it? I think let's concentrate on this list more or less. It's if not the strongest, it's one of the strongest. So how would you rate it, guys? I think it's somewhere in tier 2, but I wouldn't know exactly where.
I
Personally,
think
before
it's
that, we can also, look at the version Tyke suggested, just, for the sake of it, to talk about it. Maybe, we can just club them together and just under the Discord banner because there's so many variations of Discard. Yeah, you really can't.
Yeah.
it's not really discard at this point. The
Gotcha.
Ceres version that we played, actually, it's rather cursed stuff on Bran. And yeah, and I would really like to discuss this archetype. I really love it. It's also something I net decked from other player. But coming back to discard, I would rate it in low tier 2 at
So
best.
what do you think, Philip?
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, well, it can be quite oppressive. I was very much scared of it during the tournament. I think I might have even banned it, but it has some key weaknesses. Namely, it can be pushed. Like there's a point where your warlords are going to be small, and you don't want to play them, and the enemy is going to try to make you pay for that. If he can survive the high tempo and the card advantage abuse, he stands a good chance. And if on top of that he has stall removal, you start being a bit toast. So I'd say it's quite a binary deck. Either you have the tools to stop it, or you don't, or you have a shit ton of tempo. That works too. So yeah, low tier 2 kind of makes sense given how diverse its matchups can be. But it can be very devastating in the right one. What would be a good matchup for it, Tyke? Do you think? What do you think?
What once again the question?
What would be a good matchup for it, for instance?
I really like punishing alchemy. It's like 80% win rate, I would say, at least, because alchemy can't really deal with my carryover all that much. Also, alchemy can't really deal with the weather, and I like Gremist. And I don't provide them with a lot of high targets to be damaged by Viper Witchers, as long as I drop my finishers, that is late round 3. So it's really pleasant matchup. But that's first thing that comes to my mind. In the other circumstances, it's rather close. It's you don't really have easily winning matchups. However, you have quite some matchups that you will certainly lose, especially the greedier ones. And this is the whole problem that you really started talking about, Philip, but you, I think, haven't ended. And I want to describe how it looks like. If you with this card, you will certainly lose round 1. You just lack tempo. You have those tools that will provide you with some carryover in the name of Morkvarg and Olgierd to defend the round 2. And then if you survive to round 3, you are okay, you are fighting. But what happens quite a lot of times, it's you just lose to 0. You can't deal with the engines if your opponent developed them, and you just lack points. You simply lack points.
Yeah, another weakness of Frey, as I think about it, because it was relevant, for instance, in the mirror, is that not taking the Freyas allows you to push longer for round 1 or round 2, because this is the main weakness of the deck, being pushed.
Yeah, that's also the reason why I think this card with Wolf's Bane is much better than Series version. I started with Series version, my adventure with this card. It was net decked of your version from Reddit, and I didn't really enjoy it all that much because of the low potential, even a smaller potential in round 1. This one is better, is more stable. It has really good matchup against Alchemy. However, it's not all that viable, and for tournaments, I don't really think it's a safe pick. I made the mistake and
our viewers, who we thank very much for their attention.
I think the next deck was Great Swords.
Just a second. They just keep thinking that they just feel the static is back up, but I think it's gone again, right? Or is it still there? There's been a problem today. Wasn't there last time?
Maybe it's on my end, I don't know.
It's just like maybe from the application cap. Guys, what do you think? Is it okay? It would be good if one of you spoke.
Yeah, I can speak again. No, I'm not on my phone, but I have two mics and I keep alternating between the two to see which one is better.
Yes. And I'm not sure why the static keeps coming back today much so frequent. I hope the viewers let us know. Um, is it possible that what is it, guys? Can you hear them now? Is it okay?
Is it okay? Can you hear our words? Our message from Gwent community?
Okay, they say it's okay. Let's move on.
Okay.
Let's move on, and I'm certain we have Great Swords to rate.
Yes.
And this will be polarizing.
Oh, I don't understand what's wrong. Oh, okay. My mic is dropped. Am I clear now? Later I need to. Now better. Okay. It was because of the volume.
Okay, on to Great Swords now.
Let's see what's the next deck. Yes, you're right. It is Great Swords, staple from back in beta. Yeah, nerd deck.
Philip,
That's
do
the
you
word
want
to
to
call it.
start?
So yeah, I guess everybody remembers it from beta, where it was more or less the strongest deck, maybe with at least the most meta-defining for the whole period between Midwinter and Homecoming. It was really hated as much as it was loved, really hated by Weather players, for instance, and loved by Alchemy players, I guess. It has been pretty much changed in DIY, except for the Corsair nerf, which is still something I won't get over. But received a few new tools in the form of Detlef, for instance, which is, while it's good, is not at all mandatory in this list, I think. It is really good. It is really good.
I have to ask, was Point even in the beta version? I see there's a Dandelion Point in there in the list here on the
Yes,
dev
he
unit.
was. All of the cards that are presented here are from beta. However, I really love the suggestion from Philip that Detlef just belongs to this list perfectly. I would
Yeah,
take him over Igni, for example, in this list.
actually, even over Point is fine, but yes, I understand. Yeah, this is the standard list, really. You just have your big plays with the Jenge and Harold Houndsnout. You have Scout to pull the spy. It's really like, if they spy back, your spy is always gonna be more points. It's not gonna be minus 13. It's always gonna be with him and Skull because that is the only cursed unit other than Scale. So Scale is gonna pull this. The combo always works
No,
like
there's
that.
Harold.
Oh, there is an Harold there. Ah, my mistake. Yes, there is also an Harold. I keep getting that he's also a cursed unit. But yes, normally the combo is like that. Um, more or less it's the same deck. Keep
Yeah,
resurrecting chips. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, the list is pretty standard. I'd say there are two main choices you usually make when you do a Great Swords list. Either you play it like that with Genji and Harald, or you put in Vesemir for some alchemy, because Mandrake is of course extremely good because it prevents your opponent from pinging the great swords down, and on the contrary gives you a huge great sword or some control, and usually they play Black Blood or whatever as the second alchemy, doesn't really matter. So basically, yeah, there are two styles of great swords that have always existed, and I think both are a matter of personal preference. I think Lethal Man and One Sedim had each one of the two flavors of great swords in their final, was quite a watch.
Yes, so pretty standard deck, but very dependable. It's like one of the old guards, the from the beta. So, Tyke, what do you think? Where does this belong in our tier list?
Well, as once again, as Philip has already mentioned, this was just the best deck in the beta. One were rating him and one rating once where they were rating this deck as top of tier 1. Some even rated it at tier 0 as just the meta-defining deck that had pretty much only one bad matchup in the name of Alchemy, and also struggled a bit against the Spies. With that said, I haven't really played Great Swords at DIY at all. I haven't touched them because I really remember them as the strongest deck. However, I've seen provocative meta proposition from Philip, as who rated them at first at tier 3, and I decided to give them a shot and recall whether they are that weak to be called tier 3, or are they still as strong as I did remember them in tier 1? And I came to the conclusion that they are also still extremely strong deck. They definitely do not belong to tier 3. However, I'm not so certain whether they belong to tier 1 now. Probably they not. The power creep has gotten them. They got nerfed Corsair. However, a lot of other decks buffed their points, and I think they belong to high tier 2.
I am totally in agreement. Unfortunately, the disturbance keeps coming and back. So what we're gonna do is disconnect the stream, and you guys just stick around. We're gonna jump back right in less than 10 seconds. So I'm gonna disconnect the stream, and oh, it fixed itself. This is pretty strange. Um, is it okay? Not sure where is the static issues from. Um,
Let's put all of us in push to talk. That helps.
yeah, I think that really is. Oh, but if it's put to push the top.
In the meanwhile, I can try to say that yeah. So basically, what you said without using the word is power creep. The deck got power crept. It got slightly weaker, and there are some newer, better options for the other decks. With that said, it remains a powerhouse. I lost in a very ridiculous game to Tyke with it, for instance. But I think there are so many ways to counter it that I would still put it in low tier 2 at the moment. I don't know. It definitely belongs to tier 2. Which one? I can give it the benefit of the doubt and put it in high tier 2. But like with so many scorchers around, I don't think it's that good.
I mean, it is potent to be scorched out, and you are completely right. But I think this is the magic of Great Swords, that this is this one deck that even if you tech against it, you still can lose it. You still can have trouble to reach this scorch that burns Greatsword and Drakkar in the same time. It's much different to counter them than Necker Consume, for example, which is also a greedy powerhouse. And for that instance, I will defend Greatswords as high tier 2. You still can roll out into theoretically bad matchup and still outplay your opponent by properly sequencing your Drakkars and Resurrections with your leader.
Yeah, you
Also,
convinced me. No, go ahead.
yeah, just what I was saying. I haven't played more than 10 games recently, and as you mentioned before, a lot of people now run some type of toll punishment or other types of control, and you need to be aware that in most scenarios, 1 or 2 or even 3 great swords will be put down to the graveyard and or ships, and you still need to calculate in which order they need to be resurrected to really do not allow double scorch or even sometimes triple scorch or igni. And if with that is if that is considered well, if you can defend the blue coin, because probably you will play great swords from blue coin as a slow proactive deck with Roach, with Detlef, I think you can defend the blue coin, then bleed your opponent out, and I would still put great swords as probably the best Skellige deck, or at least very, very close to being the best Skellige decks. It's definitely high tier 2 to me.
Yeah, basically you convinced me, because this experience of having all the counters and still losing to great swords is something very familiar to me. I used to play Eredin with like Ozrel and Caretaker, and you can steal as many great swords as you want. They'll still have some bullshit. They will pull off, I don't know, some a Genji that is 20 points or something like that and still win. So yeah, the resiliency, and actually it is not a brain dead deck, as much as I like to hate on it. I mean, it is a brain dead deck if you're not facing any control. But as Tyke said, there is a lot of skill involved in resisting this control. So yeah, definitely, yeah, okay, high tier 2 because of how good it can be if you can play with it well.
Yeah.
Also, it has. I want just one more sentence before we roll it up. Great swords have a lot of points. I would say it's one of the very few decks that can really go against Necker Consume in a long round, and not completely and do not be outpoint brutally.
Yes, that's very true. Like the engine value is extremely high. Yeah, you can get up to 9 per turn, basically, on average.
Yes, and that points out, I remember this matchup from old times when I believe Hana-chan defeated Super JJ 2-0 in this particular matchup. He just obliterated Neckers with great swords.
Yeah, I'm also in agreement. I think this definitely belongs on high T2 because it has, a great reach with the way the engines work, and at some point these engines are going to be very difficult to take out because there's always an opportunity to keep renewing them. You can keep restoring your engines because there's so many ways to do that, thanks to the pirates and also the Freyas for the great sword. So. I personally think High T2 is well deserved for such a classic deck. So what do you guys think?
Well, we just said we agreed.
So High
Yeah, I
T2 it
think.
is.
Yes, I think we will come back to rating greatswords when we will be scheduling all of the column with high tier. However, I can't really see them anywhere below high tier 2. They are just super strong to the date.
So the next one that's coming up is Queensguard, a deck that everybody loves to play. So which version of Queensguard are we gonna go look into?
I don't know. Let's take a look. That's not that.
That's cursed series. It's different.
Maybe it's not there. Let me send you a link. Here's a code if you haven't it. If you don't have it.
I'm gonna check it
Then
up.
we missed it. Yeah, Queensguard is a very interesting archetype that back in beta was just super weak because of its lack of early tempo, and now in DAY it's just started to be a serious threat. And even without Kambi, our unfamous variation, it still is visible on the ladder.
Yeah,
It's a deck that grew in popularity. Personally, I played it a lot last season, and it was extremely efficient. It's a deck that can basically go several cards down and still win. You have a relatively low tempo round one, but you can still push pretty far thanks to Ceres, thanks to the Uncrate Raiders. The whole discard package is actually some very decent points. And basically, the match gets decided round 2. Like, can you recover the card advantage and bleed enough? Because you're probably going to be a few cards down, but you're going to have 30-point plays, and in the end, with the discard package, 17-point warmongers if they've been strengthened by the pillagers. So yeah, it gets decided on round 2. Or on round 1, maybe someone will win against you, but usually when they're up 30 points, they think you can't make it and they pass rather than push you all the way down to the whole round. And if they do, you might come back with all the points that Ceres is, etc. So I think it's a really, really solid deck. In my opinion, it's the best Skellige list. But what do you think, Tyke?
Ooh,
And
that is interesting. I was about to say it's not even top 3 Skellige decks. It bled out in round 2, and it didn't really impress me. And I have originally rated them, I believe, in tier 3 or even tier 4. I just didn't really had any serious consideration that it may be a serious option for Skellige when you have veterans, when you have great swords, when you have fanatics, when you have all those cursed units. I think Queensguard is still too slow and too predictable. It can be bled out, and I didn't think it belongs anywhere higher than tier 3.
Well, I would say that it really depends on the version. Like, there are a lot of very bad Queensguards around. I mean, of course, we were all bamboozled by Leafer's Queensguard Cambi. But for instance, this list includes quite a lot of control. You can actually swap Alzur's Double Cross for more control. It's even better because you don't overthin as much. And you have more points than the usual list thanks to the One Terror crew that you can keep replaying. So in my experience, it will beat pretty much all the aforementioned lists, especially veterans. Great swords are quite easy to beat. I don't know. It works really well for me, but maybe it's
Okay.
just a me.
I
Personally,
think
I
it's
agree.
Revenant Pilot S.
I personally agree with Philip here because this deck actually has a lot of reach. I see there's no Drake Bondu here, but yeah, if you put him in there also, it's a lot of value on your Queen's Guard, and you just keep if you have the ability to play them for at least 2 rounds, it's a lot of points, and I think this deck is pretty good. I'm not sure if it's exactly this version, but personally, my experience with Queen's Guard has always been very interesting and very good. I think this is easily, belongs in low tier too because you have to realize that there are enough options to win round one, and personally, I've seen that Queen's Guard even like to push round two to just get the extra Queen's Guard play out, and every time you're doing that, you're developing the Ceres there. So I just like to add that this is a really strong deck. Of course, it's very susceptible to some kind of locks. If you lock out the Ceres, it's like a big unit that's been locked out. Because this deck really has a strong round three if you go for a small round. Is essentially what Leifer has been doing. He keeps developing these Queen's Guards and finishing off with them. He just clears the board, gives them the 20-point card, and there's always that Azor Caldwell in there. But yeah, the Queen's card is the meat of it. If you remember, Tyke, in the tournament, it really wasn't the sick combo, the Azor Caldwell combo, or the combi that really won him the game. The Queen's card value was so high that he was able to beat the opponent. If you recall I'm not mistaken, was it in the finals? Yeah, maybe in the finals. I think Philip was there. Do you remember Philip?
I don't remember exactly how he won, but yeah, basically every time you play against the Cambi list, you had to push points as if he wouldn't play Cambi, because it puts so many points out that you always have to fight as if he didn't play Cambi, and he can drop Cambi if necessary. So I don't remember exactly how it went against Vaughn, but against myself, I always was at the mercy of the big points of the Queen's Guards. But he did play Cambi every time.
I understand what you are trying to prove here, but when we already are back in the tournament regards, out of 8 players who made it out of the group, only one brought Queen's Guard. It was, of course, Leifer, who was basing also on shenanigans with Caldwell and Cambi. However, other players brought stuff like veterans. And for example, Philip, why did you bring veterans over Queen's Guard? I probably
It
will
was a
answer that.
no, the story deserves to be told because the other protagonist is here. I was convinced by Red to bring veterans instead of Queen's Guards, and I regret it deeply.
That's interesting. I myself brought this card. I also wasn't really sure that it's a good idea. But if I were to decide between Skellige lists, I really like Skellige. I would always debate between Great Swords, this card, and before this card, of course, veterans. Queen's Guard has never been my top 3 option. I haven't really played it a lot during our server. I have never really been impressed by it, and I feel like it's never just feel like it. That I never felt like it. This deck can pose any trouble on top of the ladder, and I rather think it's the class of the pilot who know when to pass, who know to which point to bleed out your opponent, rather than just pure strength of this deck.
Maybe, maybe because I would have rated some more between tier 1 and high tier 2, but it might be just my experience. I got lucky matchups. I would say that Leifer net decked it and got to rank 21 with it. But the interesting thing, the last thing I wanted to point out before we agreed to rate it somewhere tier 2 is extremely resilient against graveyard and removal. Locking Ceres is basically the worst thing that can happen, but getting your Queen's Guard stolen isn't a huge issue because you can totally rely on your Warmonger points, which end up amounting stupid stupid amounts thanks to the pillages and the single pillager and the strengthening from our from the 6-point dude.
Yeah, the pillager. I like to really ask you who was the person behind the pillager. It's an amazingly good design. I just like to know who was the brains behind this.
It was my first update, the first card I ever designed for DIY.
Shout
It
out.
is a good one. Shout out, a really, really good one.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I liked it. I always thought I never really liked the terror crew, and I thought we needed some other discard target. So I thought one that could improve Queensguard, which was so weak, and that was basically the design process.
Yeah, I mean, that will be really interesting to debate on where the Queensguard belongs, and I may be completely wrong because of the fact that it has never impressed me played by other player. I have never really put to try it on myself, and it may be the case why I'm feeling so small about this deck. But my proposition from my first proposition, World Tier 3, can we agree on low Tier 2?
yeah. I think
For the moment, okay.
yeah. For the moment, I think we can all agree to put it in low tier two, and maybe after a few days, a few matchups, because this is not going to be the final list. Because as Philip and I have agreed that we will come out with a more proper format, like a readable format in PDF. While this list is still in process, so by the time maybe Tyke you can run into a few Queensguard players or maybe test it out yourself. But at the moment, I think we all can agree to put it somewhere around low T2, if it's okay with you guys.
Okay, let's
Yeah,
move on.
let's if we agreed initially, let's leave it there, and then we will be checking out how does it play against other decks that are placed here. And
Very well.
here we are with 3 decks that are, I think, 3 least popular decks among Skellige players.
I'd like to ask you about this cursed ship because this is something I've never seen before. So my question is, what is this cursed ship? I have never seen this deck before.
A cursed ship, I can talk about it. Philip, do you want?
Yeah, I wanted to say a word about it. It's not very prominent at the moment on the ladder, but it was a very classic archetype from beta. Basically, the idea is to damage your units with the ships and play the marauders. I think they're called like that. That will boost for every damaged or cursed unit. So pretty straightforward, strong in the long round with decent finishes thanks to a bit of carryover. You usually play Olgierd and Morgvarg either in Bran or in Crack. And yeah, Tyke, go ahead now.
Yeah, first off, you've described this deck perfectly. I just wanted to say that no one really plays it under Crack. Everyone plays it under Bran. And I was advocating for involving this deck. I also thought very little about it. I also had terrible performance with it. However, I've seen the guy named Pepe, I believe. He has climbed to top 5 last season, playing mostly with this version of Skellige, and it impressed me so much that I wanted to discuss this deck.
Yeah, I'll add that I wouldn't say originally, but me and Von Schwarz, we theory crafted a lot around it when the bear was buffed to 13. It was only 12 in beta, and the best way we came up, the best way to play it for us was to add Sigvold, which is cursed, and that you can damage and even kill with the longships. And we found it really successful, and for a while it was quite popular on the ladder. Then I guess people stopped playing it, except this one Pepe guy. But I think it's really worth discussing. I agree.
Unfortunately, there is no deck list for it. If I'm correct.
There
But
is.
then
I'll fetch you one.
And it is surely Bran.
it is Bran. It is Bran. I see. Just then waiting on the deck. That's then the waiting on the deck list.
Here you go. Here's a nice deck list.
There you go. There is the list, and this really looks interesting. 3 Ancrate Blacksmith. Oh, I really don't like this card because it's kind of, it's like a strengthening and it's like cheating with a bronze Drake Bandu. But I can understand what's the idea behind this deck. This deck actually, I've personally faced it on ladder now that I recall, and it is actually quite strong. And the value on the oh, there's no Marauders. There's no Marauders in this list. Very strange. I believe they do play Marauders, right?
Oh yeah, they can be played. I mean, it's a bit the bronzes are a bit flex. Here it's a pure tempo version that basically me and Vaughn we played something like that. The blacksmith is really good because similarly to the Fanatics deck, you're going to have the ships doing damage, and so you're going to absorb this damage. So it's going to be not an 11 but a 13 and plus carryover. So in the end, you can reach some humongous value with it. You've got an excellent, terrifying late game with Sigvald and Ceres. And I don't know if that was the list that Tyke wanted to comment, but this is an example of the power of the ships.
It
Very
certainly was, because I was referring to more beta version of Sirinova, but ideas are pretty much the same, apart from the Marauders. I feel lack of them would affect my approach to this deck. And yeah, that's all what I wanted to say. With I have never seen Ceres inside this list.
Well, it's quite good because thanks to Sigvald, you have a chance to trigger it round 1, even though it's pretty difficult, and afterwards it gets really easy.
Yeah, it's an interesting addition. Personally, I would drop 1 Ravager and 1 Blacksmith to put 2 Marauders, or even 3 Marauders. I can
Yeah,
bump.
it could make sense.
Yeah, but this I think this is extremely good list. It's pretty strong. And I feel that if the Ceres is locked, it's not gonna matter so much, at least late in the round 3, because you either lock Ceres or you either lock Sigvald, unless you're playing a very dedicated lock deck. So I don't think this is a bad idea. It's a pretty decent deck in my.
Yeah,
I
the
would not see
blacksmith, I
a
want to say, is very flexible and can strengthen any unit. So you basically wait for the lock and strengthen the other unit.
Also, it also acts as carryover. You just have to remember that Blacksmith is gonna play for all 3 rounds. It's gonna if you play it in round 1, it's gonna contribute those points from strengthening to round 2 and round 3. So I would say it's such a strengthening ability on a bronze. I've always disliked the card personally, but yeah, it's actually a very good card.
Tai, go ahead, you were saying?
No, just wanted. I was already thinking in which tier to put this.
Okay, yeah, let's go.
And the other thoughts. And yeah, my initial idea was in tier 4, and I'm wondering, is it really Weekend Van Sintras or not? If not, it's tier 3. If it does, it's tier 4. I believe it's too the threat of locking Sigvald is too devastating for this deck.
No, it doesn't really care. It's one of those decks where It's almost a removal bait. It's not like you need to strengthen Sigvald, or you really need him to proc Ceres, for instance. So it's one of those decks where like you play Sigvald because it's free. Basically, you could play him all geared instead.
So where do you think this one belongs?
So I wouldn't put it any lower than tier 3, and I could advocate it for a low tier 2.
Personally, I think this is similar to the popular curse decks, only it's a little lesser on immediate points. It's more like engine at work, so it's always susceptible to disruption, but there's always the possibility to replay those engine because we have the pirates to do that. So personally, I think
Could you go back to the tier list? I want to discuss a specific combo that might explain why I want to rate it higher. Yeah, thank you. The one of the strongest combos in this deck is that one of the strongest things about this deck, it has incredible reach, and you can and the opponent can very easily pass way too soon because of one combo, which is Skial into Ravager, which is Ravager is a 14 point combo because you add one point of damage which is removed basically. So that's 14 plus 5, so that's 19 if you have only one longship that is alive, and you can increase that and replay it with Heim, with Restore, and with Sigdrifa. So in the end you have a very strong tempo tool that in the end, thanks to Telekinesis, can act as a very decent finisher. That's 13 plus 6, 19 points, but that's okay. So yeah, I think this combo helps it combat its weakness of being a slow engine deck with Bran, and puts it at least in low tier 2.
yeah, I think OT2 is where this belongs because, like you said, the engine value is always going to be there, and the fact that the Ravagers are always going to play around that, they're going to negate that. I would personally, even run out one more Bone Talisman. Uh, I guess you could edit it and have another one because it's really really good to sometimes even play the bears from the graveyard if you don't have enough value, and the Marauders if you're playing that. I think it's not a bad idea to do that.
It is. It's just that the bronzes are very tight, so you could add one. What I wanted to stress is that because of the Ravager is 14 actually, it is more points on deploy than on the Resurrect. So this version was basically made to maximize points and especially get the deploy effect rather than the Resurrect effect.
It really does make sense.
Yeah, this is pure theory crafting from my part, but I see this deck doesn't really have all that many reses if Sigvald is locked. So I see the potential threat of being able to trigger Ceres only once.
Yes, and in this case, you've got to be smart about when to trigger it.
And with that said, it also provides a lot of potentially damaged units thanks to the ships. However, it doesn't capitalize with Marauders. It also has, it's called engine decks, but if I'm not mistaken, it only can provide 3 points on turn if Sigvald is locked. I haven't seen also Hammond in this list for 4th ship.
Yes, it's
still,
more of a tempo version.
It's as I said, it's still theory crafting from my part, and I may be completely wrong. And because mostly I tried this old school version with Nova or with completely beta cards, not this one. But from my intuition, it just doesn't belong to the same deck as this card. But my voice shouldn't be counted as highly as yours in this case completely because I haven't played it even once.
Well, to be fair, I assimilated this to the old beta style. I have also a more beta traditional list if you want to take a look. But basically, there is an infinite variation between the number of cursed units you want to add versus the number of blacksmiths. And I think it doesn't matter that much in the end. You play the ships, you play cursed units, and more or less it's the same deck.
Very good. Then I think we have no doubt to put it in low T2, but we can also put it in T3 and decide later if it's all good with you.
Yeah, so just people just try it out on the ladder and tell us.
For now, I
If
guess
that w-
T3 is where it belongs, or should it be low T2?
I mean,
Uh,
is it stronger? Would you take it over armor or over slave infantry to climb the ladder?
no, probably not, Solid. Let's put it in
I-
tier 3.
Yeah, me neither. I would rather prefer all of those decks maybe apart Syntrans rather than cursed ships with services. And with single fight with my name.
That's fair enough. The audio is gonna cut in and out because we're all using push to talk. So it would be good if you guys finish your conversation and then release the talk button. Or you can put a little bit delay on the talk button so that it's not instant kicking in. You could just go to your Discord and put a small delay on when you release the push to talk.
Interesting, I'll try it.
Yeah, with this setting.
Let's move on to the next deck.
Yes, without a doubt, let's do that.
So this one we were not very sure on the list. It was a last minute edit right before the stream. So
Right.
I'll hope you forgive us if it's not the most optimal version. We'll try to refine it when we publish the print version of this tier list.
Um, So I see we're talking about Reyna. So Svalbard and Reyna, very interesting leader, and this has been a bit of a controversy in in the beginning because of the way the sirens work. But after a big nerf that instead of resurrecting from the grave, they're just summons, and so Ceres is out of the picture. I would say this deck has been bumped down a bit, but it's still fairly strong. I see a lot of QQ players doing really well with this. So let's go in and dissect this deck because even though it's a bit hard to consider, it's actually a very interesting list because so many small things happening, especially with the heals and the rain and the way you can, just increase the rain into a scale like a storm. With the Tempest, it's possible to turn at least with the corrupted Flaminnica on the board with the rain already on the board, you can convert them into a scale like a storm. So this is a deck which needs a bit of skill because you really haven't seen it a lot. But very interesting, Philip. What maybe we can just go and have a look at the deck here, and what do you think about this?
Yeah, sure. So as we said, it's not a very unified list. There are a lot of rain cards actually to choose from, but I believe this is representative enough and relatively strong. So of course, what Svalbard does, it opens by spelling Svalbard, which will discard Sigvald and the sirens. Then at this stage, what your goal is going to be to play rain for positive points, so to try to hit a good row. You're going to play the sirens, but maybe before you're going to strengthen them with the Drake Bundu because they're going to come back several times. And with the brawler, you're going to be able to capitalize on the number of rains. Um, Another very interesting addition is Hammond, which allows you to deny the rain damage on your side, making the Flaminica an almost free, a very powerful weather in terms of points, and as well as giving you most often a whaler, which will further increase rain value. And I think it's very solid list all around. The Armorsmith is a very interesting addition that I think was pioneered by Redwick, so let's give him credit for that, because you're going to have so much random damage on your side that it's going to catch big value. And another thing that you're pretty well known for playing is the Marauder, which same thing, will be very happy to have a big board of damage units.
Yeah, personally, I've always been advocating for the Flaminica, and really, I was really saddened to realize it got a weekend by four. I really can't understand. I can understand what I'm trying to say is because it's one of those cards which is so many points because you're basically you don't have to bother pulling out a rain from your deck. Oh, there is always that option to discard the rain because it also works with Crow Mother, don't forget. And the interesting thing is you don't really need to run a rain in case you will always rig those. A personal thing I face while playing Frost or even Fog. So that is completely played around with this interesting card. And I have always been advocating for it to get its buff back because now the sirens are basically summoned, so their Ceres is out of the picture. So I really hope that this one gets the Cursed Stag, which is really better with the Marauder because she's always one of the units that can get damaged because you always play the rain on top of her and on the opposite row, so she's always gonna get damaged. So really, I think this is a wonderful card, but it needs to be bumped up a little bit more because resurrecting it really feels weak. But all in all, very, very interesting card and very good design and they really work together. And Tyke, what do you think about this list? We haven't spoken a lot about the Tempest. Tyke, can you elaborate on the Tempest?
About the Tempest, I really love the design. I'm not all that much weather guy, and I haven't had precisely statistics on my performance on it, but I wanted to talk about this archetype a bit because first of all, I want to remember all of us that this was probably tier 1 archetype at the end of the former year of the 2024. When the
It was for a long time.
It was quite a long time ago, but it was scary. And I think the biggest this archetype has at the moment two weaknesses. First of all, its initial tempo. Spellbolt at 3 is just too weak, and some decks that would be really interesting on Spellbolt are just not played on him because he is too weak on the start. And second of all, this archetype, can you back for a moment to the list? This archetype lacks strong, maybe doesn't, maybe lack is too bit of a word, but it's not all that good in short round 3. So if you can defend round 2, you probably win the game because most of the decks have better finishers than this deck. That's why I'm not impressed by it, and I'm not considering it one of top 3, maybe even one of top 5 Skellige archetypes.
I understand what you feel about the short round 3. The idea is really to, buff up these sirens and play them. But while you're suggesting that, we also realize that almost all Nilfgaard decks now run a seer. So a seer is really gonna cause some problems, especially if you spend a lot of time developing the sirens with Drake Bandu and only for a seer in round 3 or round 2 to push it back into your deck. With your Ulrich already played out, no other discard options in hand, it really does become a liability to draw into me even an 8 point siren, but then not play it from the grave. I really understand your idea behind this. Yeah, I agree that it does probably suffer in the short run, especially if you're not lucky with the Drake Bandu and your sirens are not developed.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's a bad meta for it. So personally, I would rank it in the tier 4. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's some version of the list that is stronger than that, but I don't know a list that is deserving of more at the moment.
I was thinking about U3, and I would, of course, meta-wise, Sire and stuff can be punishing a lot for Svalbard. Also, the early tempo that most of the decks can provide. However, it's if only this deck can somehow force the other player to go into short round one and then focus on playing the long round with uncounted weathers, it has a lot of potential. I really think this deck is much stronger than deck Kalant and deck Buff.
Okay, let's give it a tier 3 because in the end we've seen some people climb the ladder with it, so
Yeah, a
it's
lot of
possible.
people.
And it's true that with Drake Brondu, the short round doesn't have to be that bad, and actually many Rain players quite have abuse also Sigvald as well as Drake Brondu and the Sirens to have a very decent round 3.
And the last one,
But
but not the least important one, Fanatics. And with
this
Fanatics,
is
I say I've seen a lot of Fanatics on Crack, but not all that much Fanatics on Svalbard.
So yeah, this is the list I've been playing this past few days, and there is a very serious reason why it's not Crack anymore. It is that Fnatic got nerfed to 9, and as a result, it conflicts with the Blacksmith on Crack. So either you play a Blacksmith or you play Crack, but you can't play both. So this is a version with the Blacksmith.
personally, I have been trying to do it like that, but I'm getting lucky all the time because I have 3 of these in the deck and maybe one blacksmith. So maybe I'm a little lucky there. But yeah, I understand what you're trying to say. Why it did get a nerf. It's a well-deserved nerf because it's really one of those best random damage engines. I mean, there is a way to play around it. You know, you play 1 point bodies and effectively you're just doing 2 damage to yourself. Yeah. So yeah, but to continue with your going, yeah, please continue.
Yeah, so this is why the Svalbard list, and I think it works really well because it adds 2 points to the Fanatics on the heal and the resurrect, which is nice because since it got that 9 power, it will kill itself on the last tick instead of being 1, which I think is the biggest part of the nerf, and so having it at 11 allows it to come back to 2 instead of 3, and so you have a lot more heal value with the Armor Smith, for instance, or with the Bone Talisman. So what can be said about this list or Fanatics in general? Fanatics will kill Swarm and small units, small engines. I had a lot of fun demolishing Spies, the vulnerable tier 1 this past few days because you will just demolish the enforcers and kill the few engines they have, and they don't have enough removal to really kill your Fanatics in an effective way, so they won't stop your combos. But the gist of this archetype is so it's to play the Fanatics, to heal them, to replay them, and beyond, and to help you do that, you've got a lot of tutors in the form of Skjal, of Heim, of possible ways to resurrect them also with Sigdrifa, with Restore, that can also be used, of course, to resurrect the Protector that will get discarded by Svalbard. This is the most usual way this plays out, but you can a bit you have some flexibility, which is always nice. The Blacksmith, I think, is too good to pass whatever you think, Red, because as I said in the previous case, here it's not an 11, it's a 13 tempo, and of course carryover, and on top of that, it is a very nice way to, if you sure you're not going to have a removal on the other side. When it hits this scary 3 points threshold where it would kill itself, if you blacksmith, you will increase a lot the heal value afterwards. So as I said, a lot of cursed tutors that will allow you to pull artists, which I think is a great addition to this deck, because not always you have two damage targets to heal, and artist is perfect for the single heal on top of some removal and good value overall. Harald is, I think, the most cancer card in this deck. It was pioneered by Redwick, I think, and the good thing is that instantly you can trigger the 11-point bear with the Fanatic, so it is a 6 plus a 17 minimum, and much more on the Resurrect, so it's an amazing combo. So to wrap it up, I think it's a solid tier 2 just for the Spies matchup. This is noteworthy enough. What do you think, guys?
Well,
I
to
just
start with, first I will start with agreeing. I agree this is very, very difficult matchup for Spies, and I have approached it multiple different ways, either open passing or even playing from blue on multiple occasions. How to defend from all those fanatics, because it's very difficult to remain your enforcers on board, and when the enforcers are not board, you pretty much don't have any chance to defend yourself. And I have played a couple of games with this archetype. It wasn't my favorite, but I enjoyed it to some degree. And I had two different silver options, and I would like you to ask what do you think about them. First of all, I played Decoy instead of probably Restore, and second of all, I played Iris instead of Artis.
So yeah, I'll answer. That's a very good point. I think especially if you're going to play Svalblood, you want to play Decoy, probably over Restore. Even though Restore is quite good, but yeah, the silvers are tight. That's one thing that can be said about the deck. So yeah, Decoy is a very solid choice. Maybe because the artist for that, it's worth it. Second, Iris. Well, I used to play Iris before Red converted me to the magic of Harald, and I had a lot of trouble proccing Iris in some matchups, so that's why I stopped playing it.
Yeah,
But
I
I guess
remember
you have
this
different
used to
opinions.
go. I remember this one. The list, the combo used to go on a very different list with Crow Mother along with it. I think we played a lot of each other with that list. I remember. Of course, this is still much different than the list I played without the blacksmith and all. But yeah, the Harold Houndsnout combo is really good, especially if you also have a card like the Plominica, where you can also kill your 1 point skulls, and if the strengthened skull hits the fanatic, it's like the cherry on the top.
Yeah, I even run Genji in the in the Croc version because he's 10, so I can safely pull him. So it's even better with the Harald.
Yeah, it's also very interesting about this archetype. It's very strong, however, it doesn't have all that much recognition. Do you think that it's because it's difficult to pilot?
Well, I think it was just nerfed, so it was hit in popularity, but before the nerf, it was super popular and strong. Like it had 60% win rate all over the board, which it's quite crazy, even though few people talked about it. I think I don't know, for some reason it flies under the radar. It got definitely hit hard by the nerf, but I don't think people give it enough credit. I don't have any rational argument to say why it's not played more, especially in the Spies meta. And if you've noticed, there's also a lot of 3-point eggs and a 3-point Endrega stuff like with the swarm deck that we talked about yesterday and the last time, and that is getting very popular. This might be a very good counter too.
Yeah, also machines, when you have Armor Smith, it doesn't seem all that scary.
Oh no, machines are also not a good matchup, I feel personally, because if you're gonna hit some of the machines that keep healing themselves, I wouldn't say that it's that good because I have actually lost a lot with this when fighting machines because you always tend to hit their machines and just keep you always hit the 1 point reavers or the machines and they keep healing it back. So not the best
Mhm.
matchup, but yeah, I can see it even work. But it works insanely good against Necker. I have just 2-0 Neckers because the Fanatics, if you have 2 or 3 on the board, with the Necker matchup, you just want to have 3 on the board in round one itself, and it's gonna clear house. You also have that artist to kill the buffed up Necker, so yeah, yeah, you should ask what's his name? Fuck Current Gwen. Fuck I don't know what's his older name.
Homecoming.
He knows very well how this
It's
is when it's
Mysla.
yeah, yeah, my slow.
There's a thread that is asking in the chat what we think about Ule in this deck. I didn't think about it, so that would be my answer, but it's an interesting thought. What do you guys think?
Once again, which card?
Ule, the Ule the Unlucky, the new card.
The
Can
new one,
we see?
the new challenge, the dual one.
Yeah, can we see the gorgeous artwork courtesy of Redwick, please? Here it is. So it has a bit of synergy and anti-synergy with the Fanatics archetype. So I think play it if you're a gambler.
I really think if this card becomes too powered, it's a lot better, especially in Salvador list because also you like just like Fred is saying, you can also use you can destroy it your own way if you really don't you don't want it to do the deal. Personally, I've played it in Bran, and I use the ship on this so that it's a little lesser and it just keeps coming back. But it's really, really difficult to keep this alive sometimes. I know your fanatics are gonna kill the small things on the board so that this still survives. But I think given that it's not amazing, if it was 2 points and immediately coming out to Salvad, it would be really better. You could even run it in curse decks, and if your opponent locks up that bad boy Sigvold, this can just be like a budget Sigvold. Um, yeah, I think it really needs to be buffed a little, and by buff I mean reduce 1 point power.
Yeah, so how would you rate this archetype? I'm asking you because you have played it more than myself. I have some of my own gradation, but I want to hear you out.
So I think at the moment it's a solid low tier 2 at least. It was definitely quite strong when I tried it out. It definitely fell to like I think it was a solid tier 2 or even tier 1 back when it was a 60% win rate. I think it was a bit similar to what Veterans is now, like a solid deck that is good for the ladder. The deck has its tricks and can be greedier. You can play Mandrake, for instance, to have huge fanatics that are basically impossible to kill at this point because you will keep healing them. So I think it's low tier 2, at least.
I think I am in agreement there. And there's so many ways to play around with this. There's a meme version which I personally play where you're playing Hjalmar, and Hjalmar produces that 6 point, no, 5 point giant on the opposite board, and if your opponent just feels that he just wants to play around playing a lot of specials, if you have at least 2 or 3 fanatics on the board, you can immediately proc Hjalmar, which I have known to do, play the card with these in conjunction with these fanatics. So many things to do with the fanatics. You can even play Drake Bondu in this list, and you can just buff up the fanatics. The fanatics are a very unique design, and really, personally, I would put them in low tier 2 just because of the eggs matchup, which I really don't like to play. and you're just proccing the Death Wish immediately instead of and they can spend their consumes on other units. So yeah, I think it's low T2 now. If the eggs are gonna stay around, then it'll stay low 2. If it's a different matchup, it's a lot better, I would say.
Yeah, one last remark about it is that the way you build it is very depending on the level of graveyard hate and like stuff like compressions that you will expect to find on the ladder. Because in one case you might not strengthen very much, but in the other case you might very well do, because this deck can be very, very susceptible to graveyard hate. Like if you see Vikovaros around, you're going to try to spread as much your value between your cards, because it can be game losing. So yeah, another weakness to conclude is graveyard hate.
I was really thinking, why do you guys don't want to post it higher to high tier 2? Because I'm aware of graveyard hate. However, it's not homecoming. There is not all that much graveyard hate as as proposed in homecoming. However, Redwig reminds me of X matchup. And because of the nerf, because of the eggs that some decks run abundance of, I can agree that it's safer to put this deck in low tier 2. It has a lot of tremendously good matchups, and I think it will end up at the top of low tier 2 or close to the top of low tier 2, but it also has some weaknesses. I also haven't tested out against machines. That's why I'm reluctant to pushing pushing advocating towards high tier 2. So let's keep it here.
Yes, so in my experience, to conclude, eggs are not usually such an horrible matchup because they don't run much control. So you're going to basically play, I don't know, a solitary Gwent and have a decent value. Machines are a much bigger issue at the moment, I think, and this is why I don't rank them higher than that at the moment.
Oh yeah, I am in agreement as well. So with that done, I think that more or less finishes up Skellige unless we missed something out. But I think we more or less covered everything from this amazing faction.
We
So
had
with that,
we had this prepared, this cursed series that we played together on Sunday, but it's so niche that is not really a ladderboard archetype.
yeah, I agree. But it's a very nice deck, and I'm not sure who else played it, but I think I have seen you. I think did you play it in the previous tournament? I,
Yeah, I
I'm not sure.
haven't played it in the previous tournament. I think it was REB who brought this archetype, and I had, let's say, upgraded it just a bit. And I fell in love with it. It's not the best Skellige archetype. It's so potent, it's so fragile to targeting Sigvald, but it gave a lot of fun to me when I was climbing the ladder, and I would rate it around tier 3 probably.
Also, we have Fred here. He has a very valid point in the machines matchup. Ronvid is more or less always going to try to soak up the points from the Fnatic. It's always -2 on a Fnatic when Ronvid takes the hit. Of course, you lose a crew pocket, but you also get -2 on the Fnatic. So it's an interesting point by Fred.
Very good point.
Yes.
Okay, so with that said, let's move on to everybody's favorite faction. I'm joking, this is not everybody's favorite faction, but a lot of people love it. So,
It
without
is
further ado,
mine,
let's look into Scoia'tael.
the best
And
faction.
we will start up with everyone's beloved swap, right?
Ah, what an interesting topic. So let's take a look at the list. So for some history, Swap has had a lot of different versions, but the version that stuck around is this one that was pioneered by Sanguine Rose. And the only really basically what you do is you type swap in the search bar, and that does it. Except the only innovation I think which was really smart is Avalak, which is an elf too, by the way, which gives you because the biggest problem with swap is when your hand gets stuck, when you don't have a swap target and a swap card, and this unsticks your hand while breaking your opponent and provides an additional elf, extends the round, etc. So it's a really good addition. Basically, this deck is a long round deck. You want to, even though you have some very strong tempo plays, what you aim for is putting down as many elves as possible. No, not as many, but dosing the number of elves between the rounds to have each time a medium to long round, and then swap the Vriad Vanguards for huge points. That's the gist of it. The Lady of the Lake, for instance, isn't really a short round card in this case. In the short round, you're going to lose because you're going to have a Lady of the Lake. Okay, that's great. It's 23. And a shitty 6-point Vriad Vanguard, so you're going to lose. So that's not why you use it. You always aim for this medium to long round. So what do you think, Tyke, about this deck?
Well, I could talk quite a lot about this deck. This was my first DIY deck that I discovered, and I was like, oh my god, this is tier 1 deck, I need to test it out. And I tested it out. I had some of my own let's say inclusions. I used Sesentesis as instead of Avala, I believe. I also cut out Lady of the Lake and included Igni, I believe. But it doesn't really matter. It was a lot of fun to swap those elves. It has tremendous long round potential. Also, thanks to Elren and Roach, it has a lot of early tempo. You can firmly play this deck from red coin and abuse your opponent just because of how many tempo you generate by just playing Vernociel. You have Francesca as a leader, so you have guaranteed Vernociel. And in the round 1, of course, if you are not dumb and you are not waiting with her too much, and with Vernociel commandos, you can really easily force your opponent to give up and lose on even cards. And I felt in love with this archetype. It served me quite well on the ladder. However, I had terrible performance with this deck on tournaments. So my love towards it have fallen, and I would rate it as tier 3 or low tier 2, just below.
I'd also like to add a little bit about the Vernociel card here because a lot of people don't know. It's a very flexible card because you don't really need the huge tempo, and that's the thing. When you don't need the huge tempo, you just play her earlier on. Of course, you have to make sure you don't have the commandos all in the hand. But if you have a few commandos in the beginning and you keep swapping it out, and then you play Vernociel, you're gonna have that big, 8-point buddies coming up immediately when the counter drops. But at the same time, if you don't want the tempo, you just play her a little earlier. But of course, you gotta make sure the commandos are already in the deck. It's already removed from the mulligans. But really, that's how interesting it is, and you can always grab the commandos back with Saskia if you mulligan them right away in round 1. So really interesting card and 2 ways to play the card itself. So yeah, going back to what Tyke was saying.
Yeah, this is very well point that you made. You can play Vernociel in first round for a 23 or even 31 point swing, and this is impressive in abusing a coin. And I love this deck very much, just because not only because of that, but to some degree because of that flexibility. And if only this deck wasn't so awful in short rounds, it would really be a serious option for play, or maybe the best Scoia'tael deck to climb with. However, because of the possibility of stacking your hands with bad draws from swapping and awful short round 3, I can't really value this deck even as the best Francesca archetype to be played.
So I'm a bit more optimistic about this deck. I personally think your version of the archetype was a bit more inconsistent than this one, and that might explain why it didn't do as well. I think the glaring weakness that was exposed during the tournament is how vulnerable it is also to graveyard hate, and especially deck hate, like Asari. Another thing I'd like to state is that it has a huge skill ceiling, in my opinion. As you said, there is some flexibility. Like it's all about how much do you want to invest in each round, and on top of that, like how many commandos do you want to get out, because they're your main tempo tool. They're the main way you catch up, and this there is an additional complexity because it's not like you choose when you play your commandos. Sometimes you just get try to get rid of the bricks, and that's basically it. So I think it has a huge skill ceiling that also makes its rating harder, but because of the potential, I wouldn't put it lower than low tier 2.
So we kind of agreed in low tier 2 for the moment.
Okay, perfect. So enough said.
And then we have Scorch Ambush. I think we will treat hand buffs all together one by one, so let's go to Scorch Ambush.
Yeah, before we go to Scorch Ambush, I think we need to pay a little bit tribute to Evergreen and not just Evergreen, Fred, because he was the innovator of the ambush control deck. So I'm just gonna check out his deck. He's given me a link, so why don't we just use that as and we go take it from there. Yeah. So let me just grab the deck.
Normally he
Yes.
already gave me the list, but let's take the newer one.
Yeah, let's shout out to Fred as an original creator, and it's also remarkable that this is one of the decks that brought not only one player to the top of the ladder, but I believe at least 2 or even 3.
And there you go. This is Fred's popular list. Very interesting list that's been pioneered by Fred and Evergreen. And I've seen this a lot, and you can see the sappers along with the in conjunction with uh, the little trap makers are at least 15 points there if you're not playing something like Brian, which isn't necessary in this deck, of course. But yeah, there's so much interesting amount of points, and then in that there's also a bit of control. You have the Igni. I'm sure you have the single movement to realign the Igni. There's the Hawker Smuggler for that extra oomph, just a single one. But a very interesting list that can really fight. It's doesn't go really tall there, and instead it really goes wide, and a great amount of control there, a decent amount I would say, and I think it's a very interesting list. And really good in your round one, when you want to push people out with the points from the sappers, the Isengrim, who's such a huge body and allowing you to play a 12-point bronze is immensely powerful card while also doing thinning. So, Fred, Tyke, what do you think about this list? I see there's a Commander's one. I'm not really familiar with that, Fred. I think this is a more updated list, but yeah, Tyke, you can take it from here.
Yeah, well, I am a fan of this, maybe not this particular list, but of ideas of True Traps. I was bullied by traps severely by a couple of players, and I paid tribute for the creator of this idea, and I think there could be some disagreements about probably this commander horns because it's more difficult to set it up when you have some ambushes. Also, a lot of ambush players tend to run Toruviel, so it's even impossible to run commanders for when you play Toruviel and keep those two not interacting, not counterparting with each other. However, this list has extremely good round one with absurd tempo, with Isengrim, with Roach, with Aliren, with Rackets, with ambush sappers, and also little trap makers. This deck has tremendous control. This list doesn't run Mandrake nor Scorch. It has Shiru, but also has Igni. So it is very, very strong against Energy decks or Green decks. And also, I see Brent Master and Brian Dragoon to better up his long round. I think this is the only trouble this deck may ever encounter are long round precisely. If you can take down Dragoons and Harper Smuggler, this deck loses a lot of its long run potential. However, I still think very high of this deck.
Yes, we'll double down on this because, well, I hadn't encountered it much. I had encountered some cheap knockoffs, but I recently faced against the real deal on my. It's a weather clear in a meta where there's a lot of weather that you can also replay with Feign Death. So it basically auto wins you the weather match, which is also used to be a big weakness of this deck, I think, because it tended to be weak in the long round. So with all that said, I can't put it lower than high tier 2 because of the severity of the beating I was inflicted with several decks. I think it has a lot of answers. Before this deck was less refined, it was a lot worse in the round 3. Now it's absolutely terrifying with the potential of 3 Scorches and 2 Scorches and an Igni. This is a high tier 2 without any doubt, in my opinion.
I agree with that. I don't really think it's already a tier 1. I think it's long round is too weak. However, it's definitely high tier 2.
Yeah,
it will be a real pleasure to grade all those high tier 2 decks between one another.
Yeah, it will be indeed. It's a really, really amazing deck and really deserves its place in high T. Yeah. So let's look at the next list that's there.
I believe it's Miner or Shoop, doesn't matter.
Let's look at the shoot list first.
Okay, so there are two ways pretty much of playing Shoop in Scoia'tael. You either play Brewer to have guaranteed Barclay, or you play Itni and you include marching orders. A lot of players do so. Brewer is more control oriented, I believe, with Watermarker is also always seen in Brewer, or I believe so, instead of Mandrake. So it has really, really good matchups against stuff like Greatswords. However, Aitni, I believe, has more points and one by one seems to be a better deck.
I wouldn't describe it exactly like that. Well, first of all, it is a deck that is high, that has a lot of flexibility. Like you can tweak the bronzes, the silvers, and the golds. Maybe less the silvers, but definitely golds and bronzes. So there may be some variations, but in my opinion, Brewer is the consistent deck. and with as you said, the ability to find Barclay. But I would say Aethne is the more high roll deck. Like it is more points in the end, because you're going to be able to replay Feign Death. You're going to be able to, in the matchup where it matters, to play 2 Scorches, stuff like that. So I would say Aethne is potentially stronger with higher variance. And at the moment, I see mostly Brewers, so this was why I included this list.
Let's not
Um,
forget about Shoop himself. A very interesting card that's gonna be, it's gonna be a deciding card in the game. A lot of times, the frustrating thing is a lot of time Shoops decides to, misbehave, and you don't get what you want. Like you don't get the 3-point damage all units, or the weather clear, or the weather on all the enemy rows. So a very interesting card, but really, really, it can get on your nerves sometimes. But overall, a very powerful card. And you can make, and you're playing around that by playing only 1-point bronzes, one copy of a bronze, but still, it's a very, very powerful card. Uh, so yeah, that's something I to add about this. Like, other than that, it's a bit
Can I
tight here.
just say something about Shoop? Because I think it's important to remind that here, what you said is not really true. It's true for all Shoop decks, but actually, when you play a Shoop in Scoia'tael, it is super reliable. The only issue is to draw him, because you're going to always want to play a Hunter, which will always be good, and because what you aim for is the big decoy, the 5 points decoy on either Barclay or Hattori, which will give you some, depending on what dwarf you pull, but well ahead of 25 points. But if you don't pull that, you've got the 20, I think it's the 16 damage plus 8. That's a 24. And if in the rare case you don't get those two, the getter unit from your deck is usually decent. So it is very reliable in Scoia'tael, and that's why you sacrifice all this consistency with only 1 bronze to get what is always a super strong card in Scoia'tael. The only time you won't get a Hunter is going to be when you have the opponent that plays very tall. In this case, usually Knight is better, because you're going to have either the reset, the duel, or the strengthen to 25, so usually better value on the Knights. But yeah, just that long digression to say that Shoop is super good and super reliable in Scoia'tael.
I stand corrected. You're completely right about that. I guess I didn't realize that. And also, we also need to know that Yaven can actually help you draw the Shoop, because Haven will always show us a special card. So there's a chance of getting that, because there's only about 2 other specials, if I'm not mistaken. And so that is actually great. There are a couple of specials. Anyway.
in Brover list there are only a couple of them, but in there will be more of them. But
Yeah,
still, Shoop is not the powerhouse that you go to gain a lot of points. You rather play it to control great swords or stuff like that with a lot of removal.
I mean, it depends on the matchup. The whole deal about this archetype is you have to adapt to your opponent. Is the flexibility. Like you basically have with so many bronzes, you have an answer for everything. So it's a matter of finding it and using the right tool to defeat the right card. And at this point, yeah, this is more reliable than Aethne, of course. But please go ahead. I was losing it.
Well, I still think we can agree that it's more reliable than Aethne, but it's still blacklisting doesn't exist here. Don't forget about that. This is not a reliable archetype. I remember its rise because of the ability to gain a lot of removal, a lot of damage, just to counter Greatswords. When Greatsword became less meta, the Shup has fallen. Of course, some players still played it with some room for success, but it's not all that reliable when you need to face some point slam decks. You will just, first of all, lose on points. Second of all, you will fall because of your lack of consistency. I don't really think this is a reliable, this is a worth archetype worth considering when it comes to ladder climbing.
Well, I'd say it's definitely an archetype to consider when it comes to tournaments. For instance, in my first tournament, the one that Von Schwarz won, I was undefeated with Eitne Shup, and this kind of Shup can do against point slam decks is a Scorch. And Eitne with a Spy and a Scorch and so many ways to align the opponent's board is something extremely dangerous, impossible to push, and it can definitely take on super point slam decks. So again, it all depends on the version, but I think there is a Shup for every that can beat every deck almost.
So I guess we can put this in either low or high tier 2, if I'm not mistaken.
I disagree with that. I was thinking tier 3 at best.
What's your
no,
opinion?
Especially
Philip?
for
No, this is extremely wrong in my humble opinion, and I think the best testament of that was I don't know if you guys remember when we had Aethern, a Polish pro player in our community, but basically for 6 months he terrorized everybody with a Shup that nobody managed to beat. My instinct tell me tier 1, but I won't fall for anything lower than high tier 2 in the right hands. I don't know if you've played Écureuil, Noisette, Nuts, whatever his current Smurf is, but this is a very, very dangerous deck to face. Not only
but you still mean Eitne, not Brewer, right?
Depends on the version. No, he played Brewer actually because of the consistency.
I wasn't really playing then. Frankly speaking, I wasn't playing at all when in the times where what you're referring to. I don't consider Brewer this high, but if in your opinion it's tier 1 and in my opinion it's tier 3, we need to meet in between in, let's say, high
No,
tier
in
2.
my opinion, it's not a tier 1 because of the reason you mentioned. It is that it's not reliable. Very often you'll have the answer you need at the bottom of the deck, or Shup at the bottom of the deck, or whatever, and or normal dwarves in the deck, and your entire silver core will be bricked. So it's not a tier 1 by any means, but I think the versatility makes it. If you know the meta well enough, it is a high tier 2, in my opinion. But
I completely disagree with that, but if we are to meet in the middle and you say high tier 2 and I say tier 3, it's low tier 2 for us. I mean, I may have just wrong memories with Squirtle Shup. It has scored me a hat trick, and I dropped out of tournaments against the runner-up back in beta. But I just, because of its immersive, because of its lacks, because of its weaknesses, I can't really imagine someone constantly terrorizing the ladder all that much. I think it's more because of the caliber of Aethern, of the player you're referring to, rather than the deck itself.
yes, although I'd say he played other decks only, by the way, which was awesome. He only played beta cards, so it was amazing to see that it's still possible to dominate the ladder without using the power crept cards if you from DIY if you want. And this was definitely his hardest deck to beat, but probably because of the caliber of the player.
Okay, we will come back to the caliber of the player issue. So let's agree to downgrade it to low tier 2.
So what's your opinion here? Should we put it in high tier?
Okay. Let's settle for low for the moment, even though I think it is wrong, or it applies to the bad versions of the deck.
Very well then. Let's then move on to the next one.
And let's do the same with the other shop, because I think we already discussed it fully.
Yes.
Yes, I think they're more or less equal. One is more reliable than the other, and the other can do more stuff.
So the
Like
one.
one thing that really was buffed since beta times is the inclusion of Feign Death, because with Barclay Hattery shenanigans that you're already pulling off, Feign Death is super good. And if you compare it to beta times when you had Polly, that was half the time a break for Barclay, this is a huge improvement.
Yeah, you're completely right here. I still just, but I don't really think it was an issue for Squirtle Shop that it lacked powerful finishers. I think the issue for this deck was the length of the round, apart of course from consistency. You've got no signs of engines, and or strong engines or stable engines that you can resurrect, and you just rely on the factor that it is your opponent who does have some engines to be run. You can remove them, and by that means survive the long round. Other than that, when you faced stuff that was a regular point slam, you just had no answer unless you prepared to target point slams with lacerate or other area
This is
damage.
where I disagree, because the long round tool of Shoop is Scorch. You always play either Scorch or Shiru or both, and this can make you win the long round, because in the end you can align some monstrous Scorches way easier than most archetypes can, because you have all those low tempo bronzes that do the ping damage, and it's really one of the easiest Scorch decks there is. So that's why I don't think it's weak to the long round in capable hands, and would still rate it high tier 2, but let's midway in low tier 2 and go ahead.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Yeah. So the next one I want to cover is the Xavier deck with the the dwarf spam or the dwarf strengthening. Let's look at the deck and also put it down before we move to something like hand buff or ethnic scorch, which is a very interesting deck that we need to dig into. So let's just get at these simple decks first. So let's talk about Xavier, or the dwarf swarm, if you will.
Go ahead, Tyke.
I need to take a look at the lists, because we all know that there are multiple lists that of dwarf lists that are being run on the ladder. And what else can we say here? You've got miners, so you want to proc them rapidly in the first round, most likely to capitalize on the amount of dwarves that you have in your hand. You want to, for long rounds, you've got Yarpen, you've got the Ales of Ancestors. For short round, you've got Xavier. It's quite dwarfy deck. You've got very little removal. You've got very much of own points. I would like to include Sesentesis here, but I see there would be difficult to fit her. What else could
Maybe instead
also
of
be?
Ale, I would kick the Ale, but the Ale is good too.
Personally, I think no dwarf list is complete with the Zoltan trio, which is insanely good, and to not run that is very strange because I want to be very honest with you guys. This deck suffers a lot from timing because sometimes you don't have the Zoltan to strengthen what you need. You don't have the chance to draw the company. You don't have the Ale of Ancestors in a long round, or you're not gonna get lucky to have enough mercenaries to move them around. So I personally think any version that runs so many dwarves should run the triple dwarves, to be able to thin very nicely, and in fact they're always the best target with Zoltan's company if you can always put the Dennis on them, if you can always put the Golden Zoltan on them. It's a huge amount of points if you replay them with the Zoltan's company special. And also they improve your chances of drawing everything in the deck because what I believe this deck maybe is if I'm not wrong, it does suffer a little bit from the draws because there's no there are not that many tutors, I would say. But correct me if I'm wrong, but don't you think it would be better to run the company the trio of the dwarfs, silver dwarfs?
I think it's a very viable option. Here, the issue with the trio that you can somehow mitigate is that a very good counter to the trio is just passing, or and here you've got somehow a better Zoltan's company target in the form of the miner, because if you play the miner early in round one and you pass relatively early, if you replay the miner, it will strengthen again, and then you have a humongous miner that you can play one last time with Poli.
Or you can have
Um,
them give them a great Rico medic.
Yes, yes, but
That
actually,
is true.
it's not so bad. Now, this deck was pioneered. I want to give credit by Karambolem, who hit pretty much the top of the ladder with it, or quite close to it last season. And it's not as easy to remove as you think, because with stuff like decoy, it can also reproc the miner. So, for instance, let's assume you steal with you feel very smart because you stole a 20-point dwarf miner. Well, he still has a 14-1, and he still has a decoy and I don't know what else to make it a 30 points. And then he will have a 40-point Xavier, which is the whole point of the deck. So I found it surprisingly hard to beat and resilient to them to control this peculiar version. There might be other, but this I want to give a shout out to Karambalamp for coming up with this, because this is actually quite hard to counter, because if you don't have last say, well, 40-point Xavier is going to win.
I like
Yeah,
to pose
it's like 2.5 of a card.
I like to pose an interesting question to both of you because the fact that this is one of those purely non-controlled decks, as you can see, there is a very limited control with the skirmisher, which is not really actually control. It's just some 3 damage put in. You generally want to have the unit survive. So my question here is, how does it do against other decks that are full-on proactive, like the Tempo Calvador for Necro Consume? Because the problem there it's gonna be that of course this deck still has the better short round. I wouldn't say it has that much of a better short round compared to Consume, but definitely better short round than the Calvi deck. But this is my sole concern about this: is how does it fare against other greedy decks like Calvide or say Consume or even Axeman for that matter, which very interestingly we I think didn't talk about when we finished Skellige, which we must go back and talk about because it's such a popular deck from Beta. But anyway, my question here is how it fares against those other greedy decks.
If I may answer again, I'd say that one of its great strengths is this ability to keep or not your tools for a for a long round or not. Meaning that if you're facing an opponent that starts to apply a lot of pressure, like Tempo Calvite, this deck is absolutely fine giving up the control of the round. And against greedy decks, it can really hold its own because, as I said, the tempo combos are pretty good, but the value of ale in a long round, I mean, it's a 6 point engine per turn if you max it out, so there is very little that can match it. And Yarpen is completely nuts in terms of value generation with such a deck.
Yeah, you
So
have
it does
Yarpen and you
really well.
decide to nerf Cloud Giant. I'm gonna remember that.
Yeah, this deck has a lot, or actually can generate a lot of points on its own. But as one of you have mentioned before, this deck is not really consistent in terms of thinning. If I'm not mistaken, I see it only runs double Barclay or triple Barclay with Sultan's Company and volunteers. There are no recons, there are no scouts, there are no other means to and Barclay or Brewer. There can be some chances where you will find trouble to find your clue parts to defend the second round.
Yes, this is
Personally,
definitely a weakness of the deck.
personally, I have found a way to play around that is to include Blue Mountain elites. You can swap out maybe one miner or one skirmisher there, maybe one more mercenary. Depends on what you want to swap out. But the Blue Mountain elite also works with mercenaries, and you know you're thinning out the deck a little bit, and you're always gonna find it in round one because the 3 copies of the thing. So I think they can fit in very fine in the deck. Personally, at least that's what I do.
Maybe with a synthesis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, this deck was provided here because it was used to reach the highest peaks, because there are multiple other versions of doors that can be found, even without Xavier. But what else can be said? Doors are popular, however, I would say they are not so popular among players above 4,000, and I think it's for a reason.
Well,
They
me and Von, we used to be big fans of dwarves, but very different lists that look a lot more like my Aethne Scorch list.
Mhm.
I think dwarf is, I mean, there isn't a dwarf archetype. There's many, many dwarf archetypes, and this is just the Xavier archetype, the minor Xavier. This is why I wrote minor Xavier on the card. But we could spend an afternoon discussing those decks. But yeah, it's true that nobody plays them, and at the moment, I kind of find them difficult to make them work. So if I had to rank only one deck, I chose the minor Xavier because it was quite prominent on the ladder at the moment.
Yeah, and that's we also said very nice thing. It's difficult to rate them properly because if we would to rate their creator performance, they would had to we would had to rank them very high. However, I don't really think dwarves are one of the top Squirtle archetypes. I would say it's a low tier 2 at best.
Well, at least this version, yeah, it's not better than low tier 2. I would have thought it was a tier 3, but I was constantly surprised by how well he did, so that's why I would consider putting it into tier 2 and not tier 3.
Personally,
However,
this
it's pilot class once again. I'm taking a second look, and would I really choose dwarves instead of rain or slave infantry to climb the ladder? I personally wouldn't.
personally I would actually because again this one has you know the better short round compared to slave infantry. So I think it is, and personally I wouldn't run Ale because again Ale is really draw dependent. If you draw it in the short round, it's the point. Personally, my version runs Sienna, which is absolutely great if you want to start off with the minor. If you want to, you know, just replay something like Polly or Hattori or Barclay. It's insanely good card, Sienna, and it's such a threatening card. You know, half the time when I've played Xavier, I just start with Sienna and the opponent immediately passes. Nobody's gonna want to challenge that. It's really true.
It's legit. I think it's the deck where it's the most legit, because like if they answer it, then you slam, for instance, your carryover, and they can't do anything about it usually because it's hard to answer the two engines of this kind in a row.
So where do you think it belongs? Low or high tier?
No, low.
Definitely not high tier 2. I would
I
even
guess we
say tier 3 can be discussed.
So here's the question: what tier 3 decks does it beat? Does it beat? I think it definitely beats infantry. I think it also beats hand buff by a mile. I'm not sure about Centurions. Maybe Centurions can give it a good fight.
This would
Armor.
be fun.
This is the case. It may lose actually to Centurions that are actually not all that impressive, but Centurions have operator, and if they deploy all of their engines, they are a monstrous deck, and I don't really think even top draws from dwarves can handle Centurions because of their lack of removal.
But the Centurions don't have a strong short round though. They have a very bad short round, which the dwarves do have it.
And I'm still sure that Centurions would end up going into last round against dwarves, at least being one card up.
Yeah,
So it's
let's
not
try to compare it to a more usual deck. Like for instance, how would it fare against Alchemy?
Well, Alchemy steals your biggest miner in round 2.
Yeah, that's true. So probably quite bad. I mean, the question is is there something? What are its weak matches, and are they popular? And I guess Alchemy is popular, so this is going to always to be a bit limited on the ladder. So maybe let's keep it into tier 3 for the moment. But at the same time, Alchemy was already popular at the time, so. Okay, let's leave it in low tier 2 for the moment, and if that pleases GR Redwick, and maybe we'll come back to it later.
Okay,
So,
and
what
now we have your specialty.
Quick detour
We-
though. We want to talk about Axeman first because we really missed out that one archetype, and it's even though it's not that popular nowadays, it's one that really deserves a small discussion. So I'm gonna go and add it to the list. Why don't you guys start talking about alchemy? About Axeman. Sorry.
It's going to be very short. It's bad. It's a tier 4 plus. Unfortunately, as much as I love it, it has the shortest long round in the game, and it's just sad. It has the worst short run in the game. Yeah, and even in the long round, if the opponent has weather clears, you're basically toast. It still suffers from being extremely unreliable. So you can sometimes you just don't draw weathers and you're fucked, or you don't draw whalers that you can tutor either. And whalers are absolutely essential in order to maximize weather damage. So you're going to lose just off draws. So unfortunately, I think it's a tier 4 as much. It is my favorite deck, but not my favorite deck to win.
And to expand about it, X-Men is this one deck that you don't really care that you are in short round 3 card down, because you'll eventually gonna lose regardless, win regardless. With Philip rated this in tier 4, I would say for the moment it's true. However, I think that if meta develops into more swarms, and it looks like it can be a thing, with Araka Swarm being popular, more and more popular nowadays, I think X-Men can actually rise and terrorize the ladder with their lacerates.
Axeman can completely trash things like, and in fact, it can trash all the other greedy decks. In my opinion, it will if it has if it has enough round control. If you have the longer round, and you're lucky enough to find whatever kind of weather you need, because now the Axeman deck is a little different than the beta because you are actually going to replace it with the Tempest, which is gonna generate 2 points per tick because you're gonna do two, right? So you're gonna hit 2 units, or you're gonna hit the same unit twice. So it's gonna be more points, and you can put the rain down on one of your empty rows also. So it's a little bit more different than from back in the day. Also, your sequencing will be different. You want to play the Karate Heat Wave in round 1 and the Tempest in round 3 or round 2. So, but I just want to add that this is the most strongest greedy deck. Yeah, I think it's stronger than Necro
Yes.
Consume. It is stronger than
Yeah.
Miners. I think you
You
have
can
to
win
agree.
against Consume in a good day. Like if you draw enough Axemen and in good weather in round 1, you definitely can beat Consume. Actually, it doesn't deserve tier 4. I mean, it's a tier 4 in the sense that most decks you're going to face on the ladder are bad matchups. But there are so many incredible matchups. Like this beats Spies, this beats Reveal,
Not
this.
really.
It just obsoletes Tempo Calvin because Tempo Calvin, if you guys haven't noticed, actually automatically puts units on all 3 rows because of all the golems and the Dalen soldiers. You
No,
don't
man.
even have to worry about the whalers.
Yeah, but Tempo Kelvit just does too much tempo. I mean, by the time you force them to pass, it's been already 8 cards, and the round looks pretty short. I don't think it's any issue for Tempo Kelvit to beat Axemen. But yeah, it's got a lot of good matchups. Maybe it deserves a tier 3.
I don't really agree with that for the current state of meta. I also don't really think it's easily beat Spice. I would
No, but
say
Spice,
Spice
no,
can.
not really, because yeah, Spice can run removal, and without the Axemen points, you're going to lose, and so you can play entirely Axemen less. Yeah, no, Spice beats it, but I assure you that it beats Reveal, for instance.
It may be true. I haven't really faced this matchup, but what I also wanted to point out here, when Redwick started talking about buffing the X-Men in the current state of game, we still forget that it's buffing the strongest aspect of X-Men that we started to begin with. X-Men have always had a very good long round, and they still had even better long round. However, they have even weaker short round because of the nerf to the Corsair, and it's still. You still will face majority of the decks being probably card up, and you will still lose to them.
Yes, usually, yes.
Can you generate
Unless
20 points without restore with 2 cards? You probably won't. So Sirinova beats you.
Yes, and also you cannot. No, yes, okay, yes. No, yeah, you win if you force the round to be longer than 2 cards.
Yeah, that is true.
Like for instance, that's how you beat Reveal, because with all those units on all those rows, there will come a point when they will have to pass. So you can hope to get a 4-5 round 3.
Okay.
So I guess we just
But
put it
yeah,
in T4 not
doesn't
for now.
happen. Yes.
Okay. So going back to Scoia'tael, let's talk about Brewer Handbuff because I have no idea what this deck is, and I really need you guys to explain it to me.
Well,
The,
yeah, Phil, you
the
can start.
Brewer
I can
is the
elaborate a lot
Lethal
on
Man.
that.
I won't speak very much, but it is the deck that Lethal Man brought last time on the tournament, and he won with it.
Yeah, there are basically 3 versions of hand buff, and surprisingly, the leader is not the only difference that comes here. I think hand buff may be the most popular archetype. Without any doubt, it's the most popular Scoia'tael archetype on the ladder, and I think it may be one of the most popular archetypes that are played whatsoever. And basically, from my point of view, the choices that you can make with three different leaders is of course the style of play or the decks that you are about to target. The Brewer one that you are showing is the most control one. It was developed to target Great Swords and Henselt back in beta, and it has tremendous amount of control, and it can easily abuse coin thanks to the access to Barclay Carlo, or Barclay Cleaver, as we called him back in time. Then you can establish your engines and finish with Elven Swordmasters. I see that you below have Quen and you have Royal Decree to Intuit Lean. that is a meta call against an alchemy, but I think Little Man run this deck without Quen, and without any doubt, most of Brover and Aethnic players that are met on the ladder tend to avoid eating with Quen because it's still not guaranteed pull, and without access to this protective tool, your dragoons are very vulnerable, and so yeah, you already lost 2 gold spots. However, you still don't have your dragoons protected.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I personally agree.
I see that the decree is also very good on your vet because that's another card that you like to pull early.
However, your vet is not, I believe, not the most popular choice in hand buff. I would say more people still choose Shiru and Sangrim over your vet if we were to compare the statistics of what cards are taken into account into this archetype. However, I forget the point I was forwarding to. I think the best part about this archetype is the ability to abuse the coin with Barclay into Cleaver and with Roach and with Red. So it's a perfect red coin.
I'd just like to add here that any version without Francisca should never run Ethelyn because you just have a single special that's the Quen, and then you have Ethelyn. Very bad idea if you don't have access to this card early on. And even though the Royal Decree is assuring you, sometimes maybe you don't draw both these cards, and maybe you end up with one Quen in your hand and you play a dead Ethelyn if you don't have a backup Thunder in the deck. So yeah, I think you should just keep Ethelyn only with Francesca, but we'll get to later. Don't you agree, guys?
I completely agree personally, and sorry.
Go ahead.
I completely agree with this statement, and I personally think, despite all of the cons and the pros I have mentioned before, I believe Brover is the weakest of hand buffs when can be chosen into account. First of all, you only have one chance to play in Feign Death. Also, you have not, as you mentioned before, you don't have protected dragoons by definition, so it's not all that not that stable. And the last one, the most I believe meta one, is its purpose. It's the most focused on controlling among all of the other leaders. However, current meta is not about engines, it's rather about tempo or about swarm. So the majority of matchups this leader encounter will not find his chances to shine.
Well, I see a lot of vampires on the ladder these days, and they would sure need to be controlled more. But that's basically the gist of it. This is the controlled version, and it is probably weaker than the other ones.
With vampires, it's, I think hand buff has weak matchup with vampires regardless, because Fladders appears in pairs, and so we can't eliminate them so easily.
Yeah, but it's still better to kill the Proto Fladders and the Alps if you can.
Yeah, but I haven't yet graded this archetype, but yeah, I would have put it into tier 3. Some people also run Farseers in Brover, but it's tremendously helps in long ground, but it's overall, I think it's not the optimal version. You are about to control the board, not to build your own engines. You can't do both at the same time.
Yes, and with only one Feign Death, I think it's too risky. If you want to run Farseers, you can do it in 8th neb, because this brewer actually doesn't rely that much on the dragoons. Like if the dragoons get killed, well, tough luck. Well, you play the 10-point guy over and over. This is what Lethal Man did in the tournament. Whereas in Aethne, usually you aim to play a Feign Death several times, and therefore you can pretty much ensure that you always have a dragon ticking and that your Farseers are undead. So I would definitely not play Farseers in Brover.
And here we have come to agreement, and we also came to Eitne as a handbuff leader. And she serves kind of a different purpose because, as you mentioned, most of the people run Farseers on her, and it's not all about control, but rather about generating your own engines, your own points. I think a couple of people have brought this version not only to the last tournament but also the previous one that you've mentioned with Little Man. And this is a very good version. We've got Aguara, the greediest handbuff cards. We've got Sengrim. We've got Yorvet from Royal Decree that is very, very good. And we have the classical 8-nip package with Feign Death and with Artifact Compression that is also meta call. I would preferably change this card, maybe even to Mandrake to strengthen my Dragoon, but it's of course a matter of preference. And we lose in this variant, we lose some of Brover's initial strength, that is early tempo, that is control, but we have our own engines. And as I have unfortunately displayed during my last game in the tournament, this can actually generates a lot of points when it's uncountered.
Yes, also one thing I like very much about this deck is that it doesn't have the weakness of Iflin, which is very low tempo, because it can resurrect the Dragoon, so it doesn't care as much as other versions if they survive.
And
Yes,
also,
So in
however,
the end, you've got a good tempo, and you're very scary once you get going.
and
yes,
personally, that I just want to add that it's not always necessary to replay the thing that there's always that chance when you know you don't have two dragoons in the graveyard. There are always other options like the marching effect compression. So always a
Mm.
backup there is a very important thing to add.
Yes, very much so. Especially the last Swordmaster tends to be basically the last lower bronze in deck, and in this case, he will become a 14 play, which is quite nice. Which is quite nice, yeah.
yeah. And how would you guys rate this hand buff in regards to the Brover one?
In my opinion, this is the best hand buff. To me, it's high to low tier 2.
Personally, I think this is not better than the Francesca version because even though you're not replaying the dragoons, the 8 point that is, the Francesca version I think is better because the Quen you play twice and you also already buffing the Sword Masters by 2. But another thing that a lot of people don't realize is that the Sword Masters are also immune to damage. So personally, comparing the two, I would put this one in low T2 and the other in high T2, or even I think you can even put Francesca and Buff in T1 personal. But I think it's more what you guys think because I've just only faced this deck, not really played it that often.
I think you find Tyke in agreement, and I leave the floor to Tyke.
When it comes to Ithni, I agree with most of the things that Redwick said. I agree it's better than Brewer. That's completely true. Brewer is a meta call. I would consider him for a tournament pick, but not for a ladder climbing. Ithni is low tier 2 for me. It still can be targeted with removal. It still can have some problems that, in my opinion, solves Francesca as a best hand buff leader. And pretty much Redwick said what I wanted to say when it comes to Francesca list. It's super. First of all, it's a blue coin leader by definition. It has low tempo plays at first, but thanks to I believe it's in the bottom. Yes, there is. First of all, you start. You've got the guarantee in Itlin with protecting your dragoons, so it will be very difficult for your opponent to take down your dragoons. Apart from blocks and maybe Scourge, there is no really way to take them down. So you will be buffing your units as long as the round goes. Also, Some of people may argue that Francesca is too slow to defend the round and it will lose on even. I have played, I believe, more than 20 games with her. I think I've lost on even only once. It was to Spice, and I had no access to my own card advantage Spice. The ridiculous thing about it is how much of the cards that are included here are for tempo. You've got Itlin that comes with Roach, so it's already 6. That will also soon proc Elren. You've got Dandelion Poet, you've got Telekinesis. You can spend them safely in round 1 if you draw them, because you will still get absurd amount of points in later rounds thanks to your buffs. And first round you just want to buff your units. In the meantime, defending to not lose on even. And this list may not look all that impressively on paper. However, it has worked wonders for me, and I would really like to put her into high tier 2.
Yeah, and also I want to add one more thing is this is the one of the only lists where you don't want any backup from Evelyn. You don't have to run a Thunder just so that she doesn't break because you can always arrange it with Francesca. Even if you draw the Quen, you can just put it in the deck and just draw Evelyn. So amazing design. I feel even the swap decks that's for which Francesca is famous, she's actually even a better choice for her hand buff. And this is one of the only few cases which is actually better than Ethne because it's really important to shield up the sword masters because if they're bigger and bigger, the shields will soak up full damage. So I really think that very important thing about this deck. I want to ask a question to Tyke. That is Dandelion Point really the card to go to, or do you prefer to run something like Isgrim Council?
It can be, of course, played, but thanks to the amount of thinning that you get, you don't really need Isengrim as a tutor for your card. And I don't really play him if I don't need him in terms of creation. Dandelion is super strong in first round to defend the round. It gives additional 5 points, and also it's really useful in the round 3 when it's left there because you will not have more than 2 or 3 units. I don't actually remember now in the end of the game, so you are almost guaranteed pulls to that you can calculate earlier. So that's what I wanted to say about it. We can discuss about some flexibility. Maybe for tournaments picks, there is even more space to change ghosts. But those that are included here are mostly to defend the first round rather than reaching higher points. We could also think about Aguara here, that it's a perfect hand buff card on paper. But I played it, I tried her, and I think she is too strong when she works. However, when she doesn't, we just prefer to have just pure points out of tempo, out of thinning. And Aglaze is of course a meta call.
So what do you think, Philip?
Yeah, so I will give a different view on the deck. I have to say I haven't played it. I've only played against, and I didn't find it that hard to beat compared to the Aethne version, for instance. I think this deck has a few weaknesses. Like Francesca is a 9 tempo leader. I think that's atrocious. And compared to, for instance, Swap, where she can actually gain value of the swap. And combine that with Ethne, which is another low tempo tool, even though you have tools to mitigate that, like the 3-point buff on Francesca, the Roach, and all those tools you talked about, makes it, in my opinion, quite easy to push. And you've got two options. Either you try to go for the 2-0, and it's true that it is extremely hard and that you will get punished for it because you get sword masters that are very big in hand, so if it misses, you're going to lose. But the other option is just to pass after they deploy their dragoons. You might be ahead in points at that stage, and you might get even cards out of that. And next round, many decks can actually tear apart the surviving dragoons because they will be four strength on the resurrect if you use with feign death, or it's a lone dragoon, which isn't that dangerous if you can manage the duration of the round to be short enough. So for me, it has more weaknesses against the rest of the. I mean, most of the high tier 2 decks have good ways to punish it. So that's why I would rate in low tier 2, but I see I'm in the minority here.
It may be the personal experience, and I think we would reverse our positions in attacking and defending the deck when we will be discussing Itni hybrid.
Yeah.
But from my point of view, I remember how shocked I was how it's really possible to make use out of defending round one, and then how much carryover you actually get because those dragons are not are out of control.
Yes, I mean, I
It
often
has
get surprised by the 40 Dragoon at the end that I clearly did not expect. Like, also, it's hard to read exactly how much value your opponent is generating, which adds to the confusion and really helps win. Now, I think it's really surprising I mean, how strong it can be.
Yes, there is the list that we've been discussing before was originally developed by myself, but the original idea of hand buff into Francesca I found when facing Jameson, but he was running less stable deck with ambushes. It was miracle to calculate it properly when you've seen ambushed Toruviel and you didn't ambushed card and you didn't really know what is it and how much points will it generate. But I tried this deck and I found it really inconsistent. There are multiple bricks that can be found, and that's why I came up with this idea.
Okay, well, it's interesting you bring it up because actually my experience of the deck and my rating of it actually is based entirely off Jameson's list, which during the tournament I found really easy to. I just bet nine on the coin, went second, and just won the first round. And forced him to either expend the Sword Masters or lose uneven.
Mm-hmm. That's I would say for the defense of this deck that it's super easy to break his variants with all those trap makers, with Isengrim, with Decree, and so on. But yeah, this it's there would be easier to rate if more players would start playing this deck. I think there are not more than 4, maybe 5 who tried either of versions, and Jameson went top 3 at least, I believe, with his one. I have made to top 1 with that version, and that's why I'm defending it to remain in high tier 2, and I'm ready to. I have already shown Redweek when we played this game together of which were capabilities of this deck, and I'm really curious of our next encounter, of our next position to be discussed, because I believe now you will be defending your Eitne and I will be attacking.
Of course. Yeah, now just to wrap it up, I think maybe I can come to a reasonable agreement with you in the sense that it's true that my perception was skewed by the Jameson list, which I think is worse. And I haven't seen the full extent of what yours can do already on the ladder, but I really feel it's better. So let's agree on high tier 2.
Yeah, I'm also in agreement there. I think it really deserves its place in high tier as probably the best hand buff version of Squirtle.
But just for a quick apartheid, but I think a good shub would tear it apart.
Perhaps, yeah. I mean, I've beaten the deck on multiple occasions, but the way the deck just plays out is the most beautiful part of it. Though the times you beat the deck is when your Aglaeus, when their Aglaeus is not very good, when you're able to break through those shields and through random damage or through weather, I think that's definitely the times when you beat the deck. Other than that, it is quite a strong deck, but yeah, it's always gonna have some counter matchups. Should we look at the counter matchups before we move on to decoctions and save the best for the
Yeah,
last,
sure.
which is the Scorch deck, which is the control, absolute control by it. Yeah. So here's the standings. I also added here are the here are the standings. I also added a deck of mine, which we'll just get to in the immediately. But what do you guys think is the best matchups for the deck, and what does it beat in its own tier?
That's interesting. Um,
Philip, I can barely hear you.
yeah, because I'm not talking. Is it better now?
Yeah, it's much better.
Okay, very well. Um, I think it might struggle against Frost, for instance, because you're going to have a hard time in the long round. They don't care really about the Quen. They can take it off with
Yeah,
some Frost ticks.
that's fair.
Uh, On the other
That's
hand, how did it do against Ada, for instance? I would be very curious because with you run Quen, so you can probably evade the removal. That must be quite good, no?
Ada is not all that popular. I believe I beat her on my way, but I don't really remember. Was it the version of Priscilla or was it the more control version with Revenants? I don't really remember. It's when it comes to to easy matchups or playable matchups, I also think Alchemy is very pleasing.
Ah, yeah, makes sense. They have a lot of trouble dealing with the Quen.
What do
I
you
would
think about the tempo decks? Does it beat those? The tempo with Calvi?
I think
I have
my latest Tempo Calvit absolutely beats it, at least because I do run a professional, and having a lock really limits the options of their round one, and then you can just push with a huge tempo.
We have defeated other tempo list with Usurper, but with Tempo Calvit, I haven't faced it. It wasn't popular when I was playing a lot of Francesca. It's definitely struggles against Swarm. There is no chance of beating Araka Swarm. There is very little chance of beating some other. I haven't faced soldiers, but in general, Swarm are very weak matchups because of hand buff of Swarm Master value.
I think that wraps it up nicely. How does it do against spies, for instance?
They terrorized me. Kraygaunt was the only one to beat me on even. It may
Okay.
have gone other way if I had spies. I may have been able to defend myself, but I haven't, and he terrorized me with being card up and Caldwell Azar. He didn't even drop Lady of the Lake, I believe.
I think it's one of those decks where you could easily take like a lock to not care about the combo.
I do have lock, but being 2 cards down is too much.
Ah, okay, yeah, I see.
I mean, not 2 cards down, but having your opponent's having 2 last saves was too much.
Yeah, I can see.
The next one we want to talk about is the decoctions or the modern Spelltell deck, which is the sages are all out of their way, and the old-fashioned sages and the elven swords are out of the way, and they've given way to saboteurs, to these other decoctions. So, what do you guys think about this deck? A lot of changes from the classical Spelltell deck, which is still very viable, mind you, but this is Spelltell decoctions. So, what do you guys think?
So this is my
First of
list, and
all,
I think Tyke will disagree with the the card choices. I'll just say that I decided to bring this to the meta snapshot after seeing a Chinese player. I think it was Boy who wrote it and did really well. I was surprised, so I decided to give it another go, and was surprised how viable it was. So I decided that this was nice to represent the Spelatel archetype. The thing is that if you don't play decoctions, you're going to have a very bad specials in the end. And yeah, Sage into Ale might be a nice amount of points, but it's too cumbersome, it's too hard to trigger. So I think this is the version you want to play. And then the question becomes, do you play Operator or do you play the, how do you say, the Farseers? And I think it's a matter of personal preference. I think having the Operator is nice because you open with it, it's always a proactive play, and then you just push like a madman, and often it works. But I can see the cons of it, which is it's late, it's more of a win more card. So Tyke, I guess you have opinions about this.
Yes, I do have opinion, and I will start like this, that in Poland we have a saying that great minds think alike. And I say it because this is precisely the list that I thought I'm an original author, that I have created like 2 seasons ago. And I didn't really see any Spelltel in our tier list. So I decided to include what is, in my opinion, best Spelltel. So I created this one. That's the version of Operator that I've been running. I haven't really seen you with Spelltel, so I haven't known that you have some your own views on this matter. I like this deck, but it's not really meta.
It's funny. Yeah, I think it has fallen from since the Saboteur nerf. I mean, it was more solid than I thought it would be because it has very little control. It's very linear. It's very susceptible to total removal. So my instinct would be to put it in a tier 3, but I'm amazed to see that it is you who made this exact version. But card for card, I would play it.
Yeah, that's, as I said, great minds think alike. Jokes aside, I think that there is also one big issue to this list that you haven't mentioned yet. It lacks tempo in round 1. I have found countless of
Yes,
times
it does.
when I was pushed to lose on even or to go too deep, in my opinion.
Well, that's why this I didn't think don't think it is an issue, but I found that if you, as I said, push like a madman and start expending sentries in round 1, you can win round 1, and at some point. Not every deck can deal with that with you dealing, putting 20-point cards every turn, and you will start to recover this card advantage. But this sometimes works and sometimes not, depends a lot on the matchup. So in general, I think you're right. It struggles with tempo, and that's why I wouldn't rank it higher than tier 3 at the moment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have my support here, and it's a lot of fun to play, but I felt terrorized by Calvit Tempo and by eggs. Eggs have been consuming my decoctions and didn't care about them, so it was really a struggle to me to handle them. And tier 3 is very fair for this deck. It's one of those very linear, very pleasingly to play decks. However, it's not that powerful at the moment. I think you might be right with this madman pushing round 1, but this is, for example, a completely other experience for me rather than Francesca. Here you don't have Roach, you don't have Elren, you don't have Isengrim, so you don't have all that many chances to defend yourself. You need to play Operator for 9 points. You have to start playing those Elven Mercenaries and Saboteurs for just 12, 13 points at first. So your opponent, if it's tempo-oriented version, is putting you behind, and you already need to make some commitments if only you have chances to play those.
Yes, I completely agree. It is satisfying to play. The deck has fallen a lot because now it is kind of forced to run decoctions for tempo and value. Because this way it lost its biggest advantage, which was its reactivity and its ability to control the opponent, which is greatly reduced in this version.
Yeah, and additionally, Fred here is with some additional criticism that it lacks tempo, that it has really bad matchups against traps, against eggs.
Precisely.
It doesn't kill engines. It lines up Scorch and whatnot. So yeah, we are all in agreement. But I want to ask is the another question I want to ask you guys is that if you know about this magic lamp, it's a beautiful design that really actually helps this deck out, and and for someone to think of such a way to help the deck out is a very great idea. I wonder who was the person who designed this.
It is a QQ design, and I agree. I love it, and it is amazingly fun in cursed Northern Realms. If it's a meme, but to play alongside the how are they called the 4 points guys that copy themselves when you play spells. You can really chain them with thanks to the Last Wish, which is a spell, and Magic Lamp, and it's really fun in this deck too. But yeah, great design.
Imagine getting this with Johnny though.
Would be fun.
I've already forgot it with Johnny. I just forfeited it. So we can agree that this belongs in T3.
Yes.
Yes, and also we could have discussed other spelltel versions like this old school swim spell Aeltel, or the more control oriented like Philip mentioned, but they would all fall into tier 4 in my opinion. They even the troubles that this version has encountering constantly is just multiplying in alternative versions of this deck.
Yes, yes. For instance, I think that Wisteria would be a great card for Spelatel, but you have way too many even odd cards. So, like every special you can think of has a problem. So, I think it would take very little for this deck to be massively better. For instance, if we had a better spell or item. For Scoia'tael, but at the moment, yeah, the other versions, I haven't seen one that works.
Another archetype which we need to talk about, which doesn't really see any play at all, but actually pretty much playable, is the Dryads, which still, of course, need a lot more buffs, but a deck is still possible. And personally, Philip, as you faced this deck quite a few times, can you talk us through the beautiful combos in this?
Yes, I will, but I will be short because you won't coerce me into thinking this is an archetype. This is, for the moment, a great deck you found that you're absolutely the only person to play. But this is indeed a great deck that capitalizes on what Dryads do best, which is to use the Grove Keeper. I think it's the only Bronze Dryad you run. To gain value on swarm units, and in order to do that, you have a very clever and cheeky inclusion of a peasant militia, of the trap package for more bodies, and the nice thing is that once you've swarmed enough, you'll be able to use Dryad's Caress for some extremely powerful combos, like First Net Brian to double its value, or Brand to get value on all Dryads, but not only Dryads, but also Grove Keepers. You also get to multiply even this value further because you have fold. So when you can ignite into a second Caress, this usually generates buffs all across the board, and you get a surprising amount of value. This deck is really strong in the long round. I think I maintain you're the only person ever to play it, and I respect you for it. It's genius, all you've found with it, and it's actually competitive. But yeah, that's all I had to say about it.
With that said, I think I can put. With that said, we can put this in T4, I guess, or even T3 if you guys have no problem with that.
I'd rather play X-Men.
Very well, very
That
well.
was brutal.
That was cruel, but very well.
Well, I have lost to you on this deck at least once. It has threatening long ground, but I think the biggest problems that I have encountered there and other players actually did. This archetype, first of all, still lacks points in shorter rounds, and second of all, the surprise factors. When you really don't know what you are doing, and if you are in a reactive deck, you really should know what your opponent is about to plan. And because of that, and also because of the short span on experience we have, we should really rank it higher than tier 3 definitely. I think it may turn out to be tier 3 deck, but for the moment I agree that it's around deck buff and X-Men.
Okay, and with that being said, let's talk about the most controversial deck, but one that Philip single-handedly pioneered. It's the special Scorched Coin deck, which so popular in Philip's hands.
Yeah, I was already teasing that we are about to encounter the position when we will be attacking the deck that it's not that scary, and Phil will be defending that it's a tier 1 deck, that it's ultimate Scoia'tael variation that is possible. And so we finally are here, last but not least.
What a great way to end. Is it the last deck? Anyhow,
I believe so, it's the last one.
what a great way to end with the best deck in the game. Yeah, so my experience is I've played it a ton. I've got an absurd win rate with it. I really think it can take on anything. It has relatively weak matchups to machines and to frost weather. And if you want, I can delve into the specific combos of this deck, because every card has a purpose, and I believe like every card is busted in its own way. But just to wrap it up, yeah, I really don't fear any deck with it. It's my go-to ladder deck.
You like it
To
against the
put it
Ice Trolls?
against what? Sorry.
My Ice Troll deck?
Yeah, I think it might be Kryptonite, but I don't know if you remember. I think in our most recent encounters, I did well.
Yeah, I think you did beat me. Yes, you're right. You're right. Although I have fixed up the deck a bit, removed some of the bricks, but yes, this deck is really, really strong anyway.
Yeah, Leifer thinks it's a tier 1, if that's worth anything. But so, should I walk you through the combos, or Tyke, do you want to speak first?
No, it's the floor is yours. Please guide us into the combos, and I will end up arguing why it's not enough for tier 1. But the floor is yours.
Okay. So yeah, no, just the main argument for tier 1 is really, if you there are very few decks on this page that are scary for this deck. With that said, so basically let's start with the bronzes. I think they're the most interesting. So the core of this deck is the Dorblaten Archer. It is low tempo, but it is an amazing card if you look beyond the surface. The way it spreads its damage is really amazing, because it allows you to do absolutely anything. I mean, it can be a great card to kill Neckers when they're full power and to stall. It is great for every swarm matchup, because you're going to kill small units. The other thing it's great at is simply control, especially if you combine it with another card. It doesn't really look like this deck has a lot of control, but for instance, if you play Reveal, you play one Dwarf and one Archer, and you've killed the Mangonel. And I've done this many times, and Reveal is really a very manageable matchup with this. And of course, the last thing is to align stuff. So it will enable Scorch, and it will enable Cohen. I've seen people use it also to enable Malena, which is really fun, but the silvers are too tight for me to run her here. So Archer is amazing on the flexibility. It becomes an even better control card if you put it on Feign Death. If you put 2 archers or 1 archer and a dwarf, you can kill an engine while trading up. So in the late round, you're absolutely terrifying against engine decks. So enough about one card. The rest of the cards are pretty straightforward. The Half-Elf Hunter and the Skirmishers are 2 of the 12-point unconditional cards that Scoia'tael has, which is more than any other faction as far as I know, and they're just really good all around. They have the Half-Elf Hunter especially. What I think sets this deck above most Dwarf Scorch decks is that the proactivity of the Half-Elf Hunter is unmatched. You always have something good to play that is not too vulnerable to anything that the opponent can do. So yeah, that's about Half-Elf Hunter. But basically, there are lots of combos beyond that. But what you have the most important thing is that you have a lot of tempo through your bronzes that you're going to increase through Barclay Hattori, which are your big points proactive tools. Not proactive, but points that are on your side of the board. You're going to increase all that with Synthesis. You're going to increase all that with Cohen, which can also remove a board of eggs. Is rarely ever bad, even against decks that have few units like Alchemy. You're often going to find a Witcher and maybe a 3-point unit, and then I don't know, it's going to be 18 or 19 points, which is more than reasonable. The last thing I'll say is that Aglaïs is of course busted in its own way. I've made great sacrifices to include her, and she can win matches by herself. So that was a small presentation. I hope it wasn't too long. I could talk about it a lot more about Synthesis, about how the one agitator really increases stability and makes that Hattori is never dead. You can even res also the elf tutor, the elven mercenary with Hattori. You have a lot of control. You can take on basically anything, in my opinion. Okay, the floor is yours, guys.
So before that, we go
Okay.
to Tyke. Fred has a few questions for the master himself. He asks that is veteran is really a good matchup for this? He feels that how does this deck beat the veterans? And if you would care to explain, Philip. Also, he feels that Aglaeus is so triggering when you break. I wish there was some way, you could put a special card in the opponent's graveyard, but luckily, with all the hillock around, you will always find a very good Iglesias nowadays. So no problem with that thread. Anyway, the question about vets, please, Philip, before we go to Tyke's discussion on the matter. Yeah, Philip, why do you think the vets is a good matchup? It isn't.
Sorry, guys. I had I had to deal with something. Vets would be a very good matchup because of all the nice 11s that line each other. So you win through Scorch. Basically, your tempo early on is not that bad because one Half-Elf Hunter, a few mercs, and a second Half-Elf Hunter, and you've got yourself a very nice Aileron that allows you to keep up in the tempo early on. If you add a Barclay, you can add some more tempo and start aligning stuff for Cohen, which is also extremely good in the veteran matchup because they're going to be full of 5-4 point bear masters, and you can easily damage, for instance, the veterans or more units to 5 or 4 or 3, even though you must be careful not to give them too many rest targets if that might be an issue. So yeah, no, veterans is definitely not a hard matchup. In the long run, if the round goes on long enough, you'll have a humongous synthesis as long as you draw well. And if you feel you can't win it, well, you just pass and you deny them from developing too many veterans early on, and you will beat them, sure. Does that make sense?
I believe so. Yeah, he also feels that the dwarves that you play that can go up to 12 with Barclays, that kind of lines up your own a self scorch, but that's something you really have to play around because your synthesis itself is a scorch target with at least 12 points, so it's something you have to be careful about. But I think it's very manageable with a skilled pilot.
Yeah, I think the upsides outweigh the downsides, but Fred is extremely right. It can be a liability. You might want to avoid playing it. In some cases, I actually choose to replay the Agitator instead of the Barclay to avoid lining up a Scorch. Now, it is true, especially in the Veterans matchup. In the worst case scenario, if they line up enough 11s, you could damage your own 12 points dwarf, but the simplest solution is just not to play it. Yeah, basically, one of the things that are hard but definitely manageable in this deck is to pilot when you want to Scorch. Like there will be a time for points and there will be a time for Scorch, and you have to manage that, but it's definitely doable. And yeah, to keep with Fred, Aglaïs can break. It's true, but it's one of those decks that you don't really mind mulligan it away. You don't think to 0. It's not a hyper thin deck, so you have some flexibility. Same for the lock, for instance. I don't play it every game. Or the Scorch. One of the things that I really love about this deck is that I took out. I don't have Shiru anymore, and instead I have Isengrim into Scorch, which is much more flexible because at this point this deck is a bit notorious, and there are many people who try to beat me, either to Scorch me or to counter to play around my Scorch, and often like keeping Scorch accessible in the deck, but you not being obliged to play it is the best course of action.
Yeah,
Very,
that was
okay. Please go
that
ahead,
was
Tiger.
very good. Yeah, that was very good explanation, and it was extremely good strategy. I was one of the victims who really felt to this strategy. I really believed when we played during the tournament that if I manage to avoid your Scorch, I'm completely fine. And you shown me that you don't need Scorch to actually punish me for playing Temerians. But coming back to cons of this deck that I see. First of all, I see lack of proactivity in this deck. Apart of half-elf hunters, what else can you play from blue perspective?
It's a lot of half-elf hunters, but you've got 3 of them plus Feign Death, so I mean that checks out for me. Sometimes I play Yevon, but it's a bit in particular
Okay,
cases.
so we definitely need to go red coin to be able to pull off something from this deck if we don't draw half-elf hunters, because we are counting to draw them. There is
Yeah,
pretty big
but
chance because we have
3
three of them.
scouts. You've got 3 of them plus 3 scouts plus 2 elven mercs. I mean, it's really unlikely that you're going to
Yeah,
miss half-elf
to
hunters.
break. Okay, I see. It would be really lack of luck, or rather bad luck. How to say it? Bad luck
Yeah, it
to have
happens.
both
It
skirmishers
happens.
and. Mhm.
I mean, it can
However,
happen. Sometimes I resort to, I don't know, Isengrim create, which is really bad, or stuff like that. But yeah, I'll say that often I'll take a suboptimal feign death in the sense that I could have a strengthened skirmisher in the graveyard, and I won't pull it because I need to play proactive, so I will play the half-elf hunters instead, and I lose some points to that. Yeah, for proactivity I rely on half-elf hunter, but I really believe it's enough. It's I don't know. I lose a few points from time to times, but it's generally checks out.
Got it. You
But
also
the-
got Elrond, so you are prepared to play from red coin.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
it's definitely
also
a red coin deck.
yeah, I also disliked very much the Barclay here. I mean, I love the Barclay in this deck, but I disliked the situation where we are not really able to pull him easily. You don't have matching
Yes.
orders. You don't
Yes,
have.
it is a bit. It's frustrating. Basically it's a bit of a lottery if what goals you're going to draw and if you're going to draw Barclay, and you play based on the result of this lottery. Please go ahead.
Yeah, this was my main issue. Like I said, you terrorized me with this deck on multiple occasions. You definitely have positive win rate against me with this, or completely positive win rate with this against me. But on paper, when I take a look at this list, when it was finally revealed for the tournament purposes, I really didn't see all that many, how to say it, terrorizing points that you take a look at this deck and you already know you are fucked. I think the most part of this deck, it's about your class and your ability to predict proper plays of your opponents and to punish their inaccuracies. With these two main issues that I have mentioned before, in the name of proactivity and especially the Barclay access, I really don't think that this deck could be matched in hand of regular player that could be an equal match to beat, for example, vampires.
Vampires is definitely one of the bad matchups, I'd say, because you generally struggle against weather. You're going to have trouble killing enough of them. Like you're definitely going to kill many, especially with Scorch. But it's a tricky matchup, I think. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe that was bad example from my part, but can we just switch to tier list?
Yeah, I think we looked at it enough.
I mean, how does it deal against Swarm or Lyrian machines?
So against Lyrian machines, it's quite good. You have an almost guaranteed lock on the Ronvid. Then you basically kill the crewmen with your pings, like the hunters and the dwarves. And you pass before they kill too much stuff, and then it's easy picking with the Scorchers on the big Lyrians. It's definitely a winnable matchup. Spies is also, if I may comment on Spies, is also a very winnable matchup. You don't care about the Azar Cardwell combo usually, because worst case scenario you're going to just kill the Scarabs with an archer. You can kill the engines round one. They're very vulnerable to Scorch. And yeah, if it goes to a one card round, you've got your chance if you've still got Aethne. So same in the tier one. It is one of the most. It is. I think it's the best contrast to Spies. I never lose against Spies with it.
Yeah, and I can imagine that because you also have tools to deal with Spice engines. How about Swarm? I really think this is not that clear that this deck is so good. I really would try to prove the point that it's your class rather than the points of this deck, and I would put it in high tier 2 just from the sake of my
Yes.
imagination.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a case of me, and because it requires you to know exactly what you're facing. For instance, one cheeky thing I have been specializing in doing is locking Malenas, and you have to guess which trap is it. And I've had a lot of success recently in locking Malenas, and you can't say that this deck like auto wins against traps. It's just not true. You have to get lucky and play it well. But yeah, for instance, Swarm, you're not going to be able to outpoint them, clearly not. You're going to be able to hold your own a bit, like stuff like Synthesis, and if you draw your dwarves, it's going to be really good. The Aglaïs can no, yeah, the Aglaïs can also be a huge point swing pretty early on. You will get worst case a scout or a better monster nest. But the difficulty will be the Scorch, because once they start buffing their units, the only way you're going to catch up is through Scorch. And it is possible, but you're going to play suboptimally, like avoiding playing the dwarves, etc. And it will be difficult. So I think it is a fairly even matchup.
I mean,
I
wow,
don't know,
I would never guess it's equal matchup. When I see your archers and your doors apart compared to those terrorizing triple multiplying triple Aracases, I would really guess it's an almost auto win for Aracas Swarm. That you in general have poor matchup against Swarm.
No, Swarm is really, especially Slave Infantry, is like a bloodbath because you love 3-point units. I used to run Sea before, it was even crazier against Swarm, but of course it's worse when you don't Swarm. But Cohen just eats alive any form of Swarm. If you combine that with the archers and potentially like you can do multiple feign death of double archers, you're going to obliterate the tokens before they have a chance to become threatening. So no, this deck deals really well with Swarm.
Okay, but it's you are not. This is not the best deck in terms of consistency. You often don't draw Cohen or Synthesis.
Yes, I agree. This is the weakness of the deck. It's not very consistent.
Okay, so it beats Mill easily. Okay, but yeah, but I still would argue that it's high tier 2, maybe top of high tier 2, but not tier 1. It just doesn't belong here. You need to be too good of a player to make use of this deck to play it as to don't fear any stuff on the ladder.
Yeah, maybe I'm not objective about this deck. It's by far the deck I have played the most this year, and I kept refining and adapting and preparing my game plans for every possible matchup there is, and it may be that I delved too much into this, and I might do better with something else. But I stand by the fact that at least in my hand, it's the deck I prefer having for facing anything.
Yeah, so
Also,
if you were to play for your life, you are definitely choosing 8 control.
Yeah, definitely. And I wouldn't call it even control. I think it has everything. It has tempo. It has carryover.
Yeah, you're right. Hybrid was better word.
I think it's a
Yeah.
really good deck, and personally, I think why I would put it in tier one is because of the several amounts of matchups that it can, it can take on. It has so many tools in it, so it's not like it's gonna be always unfavorable to a matchup. It's always gonna have a variety of good matches. So the truth of this is, it's such a reactive deck. Really boils down to who is the pilot. A lot of people cannot pilot this deck in the correct manner, which is why I would say is your argument tag. But really, in the hands of a good pilot, this deck pretty much is good against almost all decks. And I'm not saying that it's objectively better, but I'm not saying that you can't say that this is a bad matchup. It can fight. It can play around. At least that's what I think.
Okay, I completely agree with that, and I would also say that we can probably say about more of the decks of high tier 2 that in the hand of very good player they turn to be unbeatable or almost unbeatable. I think that we all agree that Spies in the hand of Von Schwarz were tier 0 deck at some point. So let's just downgrade just one tier this Scorch Coin and come up to the finest of our tier list to rate decks between one another alongside the tiers.
That's fair enough. Then if Philip also is in agreement, I guess we can put it on high T2.
Very well. I'll just say that I absolutely don't fear von Schwarz and Spies with this, but that's to close the parenthesis.
Okay, so I think we should start from the bottom.
Really, let's do that then. Let's go.
So do we agree that that deck buff is the weakest deck here?
I mean, it is unreliable in the sense that if it is not answered, it will be do 300 points. So I'd say in a good day, it's the best one.
I mean,
So,
all of
so
the decks of that
personally,
tier 4 can be described in the same way.
personally, I
Yeah.
think there is a mathematical approach to it. I don't think if it's a legit approach. But what we can do is take this particular deck, like the deck buff deck, and then check all the other decks and count the number of decks it can beat. If this number is more than anything in the T3, and then you have to put the deck buff deck in T3 because if this deck beats more matchups than compared
I
to the
like
other
it.
decks. So this is a good way to, do the math here, unless you have a
This
better
is
idea.
pretty smart. Just excuse me. I think it's getting pretty late on my end. Maybe I can leave for a moment, but I have to need to leave. Not to. I can come. I say maybe I can come back. And I'll check on your work, but for the moment I will have to leave you guys.
Personally, I think we can even postpone this because we also Tyke has to do a lot of testing on the ladder, and it's also pretty late for me. It's 3 a.m. So I don't mind actually saving this bit for another time, and or we can just do it on paper and
Yeah,
publish as the final article. But we can discuss it a
Yeah.
lot in the Discord because now that this is somewhat the final version, we can just put it down in the Discord channel and we can have everybody look into it and they can nitpick, they can give their opinions, and with the larger audience participating, we can even make it better. What do you guys think of that?
that's very smart idea.
Perfect for me. So yeah, that's the best solution. Let's have the community. Let's hear what they think. Let's make it a bit more collaborative. And yeah, I'll just post a cleaned up version of this without the scale on the top to say they're not ordered yet, and we'll go from there. Thank you very much, Red, for hosting. Thank you everybody for listening to us, and I'll be leaving you. And thank Tyke for being a co-host, an amazing co-host.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for taking part. Thank you all for discussing and arguing about our favorite game, our favorite decks, and you made a lot of good points. I know, as Redwick said, I have to do a lot of testing on the ladder. It was a pleasure to take part in it, and hope you all good MMRs. Ciao.
Ciao.
Same. I just want to thank both of you for being able to participate and everyone, especially Fred, for sticking around. Thank you very much for Cat Jack, and for Rich for being there. I just want to thank everyone and hope to meet again in Discord and in the game in the future. And uh, hope everybody enjoys playing the game. And very soon we will have a proper format, a proper file for which we can browse and check out all the decks, the with full information, the deck list, etc., etc. Thank you and good night, good day, and see you all in the game. Bye bye.
Bye bye.